Hi guys, Boneless here to bring you guys a patch analysis for junglers. I'm gonna keep this video pretty short. I'm not gonna go into detail with all the patch notes. If you wanna watch all the patch notes and the full patch analysis, I recommend like Perch did one, or Sunsfan, Bulba, Slacks also did one. Slacks is a wonderful idiot to listen to for 5 hours in a row, so I recommend that. But what you really want to know from me is how this new jungle and this new metagame is gonna shape up for the junglers in particular. So I'm gonna focus mainly on that. So I'm gonna go through the patch notes here, all of the stuff that's relevant for junglers, and afterwards I'm gonna show you the actual new map. It's available for play now. I did play some in the new map, just lobby games. I had to test some stuff out before I tried this, so I'm gonna share those experiences with you also. But to begin with, let's look at the patch here. So this is a Danish, but it's only the headlines that are in Danish, so don't worry, it's gonna be in English. I mean, Valve is like, all right, we do the headlines in Danish, and then we please the Danish people. So thank you, Valve. It's nice of you. But it's still in English. So ultimate levels. Ultimate levels are now at 6, 12, and 18. Heroes no longer have attribute bonus ability. So what they mean is you can no longer skill stats. Heroes have 4 talents that can be leveled at 10, 15, 20, 25. Each level gives you 2 bonuses to choose between. Each hero has their own unique set of bonuses. See below for the list of bonuses. So I'm gonna look at that stuff a little bit later. But basically, so you get your ultimate at 6, 12, and 18. So for junglers, that doesn't matter that much, because normally you'll be out of the jungle by the time you hit level 6, right? So, and the same for the talent trees. It's really interesting, it's really cool. But again, for junglers, I don't really care that much, because when you are out of the jungle, you're already hitting the mid game when it's like level 10, so it doesn't really affect your jungle in any way. So, but this one, heroes no longer have attribute bonus ability, so you cannot skill stats, and for a few junglers, I did like to skill stats. I did like to have that one level in stat on my jungle Drow Ranger, for example. And there's a few others that might affect a little bit, but it's very minor. We're gonna get to the big changes in just a second. So XP required to reach level 12 is the same as the previous level 11. So that does matter a little bit for junglers, because what I assume is that the experience needed to reach level 6 is also a little bit less because of this, because it should be smoothened out. I'm not 100% sure, but what it could mean is that it might be slightly easier to reach level 3, it might be a little bit easier to reach level 4. And if you add to that the other change that I'm gonna get to in a minute, which is that there are bounty runes now in the jungle, which can also give you a little bit of a boost, then it might actually be a little bit easier to reach level 6 in some cases. So there are buffs to the jungle, and there are a lot of nerfs to the jungle. I'm gonna get to all of them. So here's one of the big changes. They made this shrine. They added a new building type. Shrine has 1500 HP, 20 armor. There are shrines near each team's secret shop on new ancient camp locations. Shrines can be teleported to, and that's a big thing. So what this means is that if you're getting ganked in the jungle, if you're, for example, on Radiant and you're focusing on the hard camp and the medium camp, you know, the 2 camps closest to the mid lane, if you're on those and people are ganking you, then people from your team can actually TP into this shrine, and then you can cut them off. So when you're running away and they're chasing you a little bit, and maybe they kill you, but there's a pretty good chance that your team can get a counter kill at the very least. So it's especially on Radiant, I feel this is really good, because you can TP in and help your junglers if they're getting ganked. So the shrine is a bonus, is like a buff to the jungle. And the other big thing about the shrine is that it can heal you. It's only 1 per 5 minutes, so you have to be really conservative when do you actually want to do this. But if it ends up being like a full brawl or a team fight in your jungle, your team can retreat to this point and heal up, and then the other guys simply can't do anything. Or if you have a very specific jungler, like if you really want to clear the ancients as fast as possible, or if you're just selfish and you actually just don't want to go back to base, then you have this option as a jungler to just go to the shrine and heal up, and then you can continue jungling. So in some cases, this can actually be a pretty big buff for junglers. Yeah, so anyway, shrines becomes vulnerable whenever all tier 2 towers fall for the respective team. Each team also have 5 shrines inside the base. I don't know why they would do that. It doesn't matter that much, I guess, but yeah, it's still fine. Shrines have an ability with a 5-minute cooldown, like I was saying. Allied heroes can right-click to activate it, generating a 500 AoE aura that lasts for 5 seconds. The aura provide 120 HP and 40 mana point regeneration per second. Heal values during the game by Heal values increase during the game, by 2 HP and 1 mana point per minute. So it's still best in the early game. I mean, later on you can't even heal your hero to full HP with this. But in the early game, if you're getting ganked, or if you just really want to heal up after you've been clearing a stack with axe or something, then the shrine is right there. And I think it's a way to use it. I think it's pretty good. So let's continue. So shrine ability become available to use outside the base when the creep spawn at 000. Yeah, fine. Shrines do not grant vision. Shrines provide 150 gold bounty for each player on the team when killed. So that's actually a pretty big deal in killing these shrines, but again, for junglers, that really doesn't matter that much because you cannot kill the shrine until you kill the tier 2 tower. So in the early game, in the jungle phase, this shrine is only help to you. It's not really a liability. And then we get to the runes here. And this is also a big deal for junglers because the runes are now in 2 different categories. Power runes, that's haste double damage, and bounty runes. So the way they did it is all the normal runes, the haste, illusion, double damage, and all that stuff, those are at the normal rune spots. And all the bounty runes are like a 1 bounty rune in each jungle. So that means already from the start of the game, as a jungler, maybe you can take the bounty rune in your own jungle. Maybe your mid lane still wants to go all the way down in the middle of your jungle to grab the bounty rune and then go back to his mid lane. I mean, that's up to you to figure out. But later on, when you're jungling, you will get this bounty rune for free. It will be natural that you just take it. And there's 2 things about this that are really good for junglers. First of all, this means that you can get a little bit of gold and experience boost in your jungle. So you're getting some options here. You're getting the bounty rune that can give you a little bit of a boost. You get like a free fountain in the middle of the jungle. So you have some options here to potentially make some really fast jungle patterns. And also, a thing that I think could be really big here is I like to run some junglers with a bottle. Like the first one that really comes to mind is conquer jungling with a bottle. That's gonna be really good now because you can spend all your mana and your HP, and then you can take this bounty rune, and it heals you. It gives you back 2 bottle charges. It doesn't actually give 3 anymore. It only gives 2 bottle charges. But with Conquer, if you just can get that little bit of bonus like once or twice, and then you also have a TP scroll, and you can X mark yourself on level 4 or something, and then you can TP back to base, and then heal up and refill your bottle completely. I mean, I think Conquer jungling will really benefit from this new bounty rune in the jungle. So the normal power-up runes do not spawn in the river at the start of the game, but each of the 4 bounty rune does spawn in the start of the game, and they spawn every 2 minutes. So yeah, so like I was saying, like maybe your mid lane wants to come all the way down to your jungle and take the bounty rune. Fair enough. But I mean, it's kind of a longer distance than it was before, so maybe he will be content with just blocking his own creep and let you or the carry or whatever take this bounty rune to begin with. Grievel's Great bonus rune multiplier rescaled from 3, 5, 6 to a constant of 2. So of course they had to do this because otherwise alchemists could just run around and just get all these bounty runes and get insane value. So of course when they're adding so many bounty runes, I think it's fair enough that they nerf alchemists in this respect. Bottles now only replenish 2 charges when filled with a bounty rune. So this is what I was saying before, that you only get 2 charges, and I think that's kind of good because otherwise bottles would be too good And I almost feel that bottle is still a lot better than it was before because there's so many bounty runes. And like I was saying, for a jungler, if you have a bottle and you have this option to either go back to base, refill it, or with a conquer you can X yourself and then TP back to base and refill it, or you can get a bounty rune and refill it, or you can get a normal rune and refill it. I mean, you have a lot of options to refill your bottle, so I think bottles for junglers could be really good now. So here are some of the big changes. So they reworked the entire jungle terrain for Radiant and Dire. Both primary and secondary jungles are all connecting routes. The primary jungle for each team now has one ancient camp, two hard camps, two medium camps, and one small camp. So whereas before they had two hard camps, two medium camps, and one small camp. So the difference here is they took one ancient camp and put it right smack in the middle of the Radiant and the Dire jungle. What they now call the primary jungle, because you can't really call it the secondary jungle, what they call it now. Before we called that the Ancients area or the Secret Shop area, but you can't really call it the Ancients area anymore, right? Because now there is two Ancient camps. So we are gonna refer to that now as the secondary jungle. And the secondary jungle has one Ancient camp, one hard camp, and one medium camp. But previously they had one Ancient and one hard camp. So they put in one medium camp in the secondary jungle. So first of all, the secondary jungle, will that be a big deal for offlaners? Was my question, and I think it's gonna be pretty much the same. I think it's nice for junglers that they can actually get a bounty rune down there in the offlane now. If they're really struggling, they can get a bounty rune, and then they have one more camp. So it gets evened out a little bit because, as you'll see later, all the camps got like you can only all the camps only spawn creeps every 2 minutes now. So for the offlaners, that means that you can't always get that hard camp every minute if that's how you want to go with it. But they do get a medium camp instead, so it kind of evens out. And for some offlaners, it's actually a lot easier to kill a medium camp in the early game than it is to kill a hard camp. So I think it's a slight buff for offlaners. And also, like I said, they can get this bounty rune. So yeah, I think this is a good change for offlaners. I think they'll be happy about this. Terrain layout, rework the path, hiding spots to the left and to the right lanes. Fair enough. Reworked many ward spots, locations, and duke path. Added various duke paths near the map edges between the tier 1 and tier 2 towers. Adjusted tree distribution to the left of the top Radiant barracks. Alright, so we're gonna look at all this stuff later, but for now, this is important. This is like the big nerf that everybody's been crying about. Oh, the jungle is dead. Oh, what are we gonna do? Icefrog, how could you? And I don't think it's that bad. I think there's a lot of things in this patch that are clear nerfs, this being the biggest one, and then there's also some buffs. So I'm gonna touch on everything here. So, but first of all, neutrals spawn time from 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, like we used to know, and now it spawns at 30 seconds, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So they only spawn once per 2 minutes, and this is a big deal for junglers because especially some of the junglers that rely heavily on stacking, they're screwed now. I mean, it's so good that you can stack the creeps at the 1 minute mark and the 2 minute mark, and then you can clear the stacks and get a huge boost in the jungle. I've been maybe the one who's been abusing this the most. Like, for example, with Axe and Necrophos and other heroes, I could get ridiculous fast timings because I could really abuse these stacks. But now you can't really do that to the same extent, so now you have to look other ways. But what I want to say here, first of all, is you still get the stack at the 1 minute mark. And this 1 minute mark stack is actually the most important one. Because for junglers, what's really hard is to get over the first few levels. If you can just reach level 3, then usually you got the first couple of items you need and you got the experience you need, so you can more easily just rotate between the camps and jungle normally. You usually have to like cheat and do some stack shenanigans in the very first minute. So it's really good that we still have the first minute stack to do some stacks. And I've been looking at the new jungle, and there are still a couple of ways you can double stack now, where you stack 2 camps at the same time. And if you still want to jungle the junglers that rely on on the stack, I think it's really important that you do the double stacks, because you won't be able to stack at the 2-minute mark, so you need to just stack up everything you can at the 1-minute mark. There are even a few junglers, I think, that can stack 3 camps at the same time, especially on Radiant. I'm gonna show you later what I think. But this might be even more important now, because like I said, if you can't stack at the 2-minute mark, you gotta stack the crap out of everything at the 1-minute mark. So this is an idea. Here is another thing. I think this is maybe not directly targeted at me, but this is something I like to do. Dying to neutral creeps now cause your hero to have a minimum respawn time of 26, equal to level 6 respawn time. So again, me being the biggest abuser on the planet, I like to jungle the crap out of Axe, and for example Axe, and then I just suicide, and then I TP back to the jungle, and then it actually increased my jungle speed, because I could use all my resources and get a big boost, and then I could die, suicide to the creeps, go back to the base, and then I could TP back. I can't do that anymore, because 26 seconds is a lot. But I think what they really want is for junglers to use this new shrine, and they don't want us to die for no reason. So I think that's it's, I kind of understand it, because it was a bit abusive that you could just suicide and this way gain a big advantage in the jungle, and some heroes to do this. So it's targeted at some junglers like me, who likes to do the tactical suicide, but also it's targeted at the support heroes who just like if they were low, they spent all their mana on harassing the enemy offlane or something. They also just suicided to the creeps to get back to base, because it's a lot faster to travel. You still might see that sometimes. I mean, it still takes 26 seconds to walk back to base anyway, so it still might be worth it to suicide for the support sometimes, but it's definitely not as good as it was before. So, Ancients are no longer spell immune. They now have 70% magic resistance. Any that had lower values before still have lower values. So, yeah, this is sort of a big deal. I mean, this was really interesting to me, so I had to test out a bunch of stuff about what heroes can actually clear the Ancients now. I'm gonna show you that later, or maybe I'm gonna cut it in now, but it was interesting to me to see that, okay, 70% magic resistance is a lot, but if you can now target Ancients in a different way, how can you abuse this? So I tried it with Mirana, I tried it with Doom, I tried it with... I'm gonna show you all this stuff, but bottom line, there's a few things that might be alright, but they thought about most things, so there's not really a way you can abuse this, unfortunately. So the following abilities do not affect Ancients, Arcane Orb and Chakram, so they already took a bit of of a repercussion right here. And also there are, I found there's a lot of other abilities that can't do it either, like Darkseer Vacuum does not affect the Ancients, and Frostbite does affect the Ancients, but it doesn't give you that 10-second freeze that you really want if you want to jungle. So Frostbite is terrible against the Ancients and stuff like that. So neutral creeps now have 1 mana regeneration. This is for Chen. Really good for Chen, because otherwise he always had to send all his creeps back to the base when he was ganking, and he already used the 2 stomps on his Centaur. So yeah, a slight buff to Jen right here is fine. Swap the order of Ancient Thunderhide ability. Slam is now 3rd, so this is relevant for Doom. And when I read this, I was like, oh, you can devour creeps! Doom is gonna be like the sickest jungler now, but nah, they thought about this. You cannot devour creeps until level 25, then you can actually choose to get the ability to devour the ancient creep. So unfortunately, Doom is not gonna be a broken jungler now. That was like the first thought I had, is like, oh my god, Doom, yes! But no. Swap the order of Ancient Black Dragon ability, Dragonheart. Again, yeah, relevant for Doom. So the new Ancient is a neutral camp that provides 2 Acolytes and 1 Power Shaman. So the Prowler Acolyte provides a stacking aura, provides 10% lifesteal and 10% HP regeneration. this 10 HP regeneration is pretty legit. I mean, the reason, first of all, they do this is, again, that they are trying to really minimize the way that the game is played, that you just take a big stack of Ancient and just get a huge momentum of gold by killing the big stacks. They're trying to minimize that in a few ways, so you can't... For example, with Gyrocop, that actually takes you a while to kill the Ancients. You're gonna do all your flag cannons, then you're gonna wait for your cooldown, like 8-9 seconds, and then you can do another set of flag cannons. And in like, the creeps are gonna heal a lot if this guy is still in the mix when you do that with Gyrocopter. So it is a big deal, this 10% regeneration. And also, for example, when I tried the Crystal Maiden to just see if you can actually jungle Ancients with Frostbite now, it was still like the huge deal that, okay, you can do a little bit, you can drag him out and you can do a little bit of damage to the small Prowler Acolytes or Prowler Shamans, which one it is, I don't know. But the thing is, they just regenerate so fast, and again, like, the Frostbite only works for 2 seconds instead of the normal 10, because that's just how it works with Ancients. So it's not very good. So so this guy, I like that they made him. I think it's cool. And also later on in the game, it's like with your leaner or something. If you just run around and you get past the Ancient camp, you see this guy, you're like, oh, okay, cool, I can kill that because I can do a lot of magic bursts to this guy. And these guys do not have magic resistance. They have a lot of armor, but they can be killed very easily by magic. And it's kind of cool to put an Ancient creep in the mix that actually is very vulnerable to magic, instead of the other way around. So the general theme of Dota at the moment is we're trying to make magic damage more viable and physical damage a little less potent. So it's the same thing with Roshan. They put a bunch of armor on Roshan, like a ridiculous amount of armor on Roshan, and then instead they removed a lot of his HP. So again, it's easier to kill Roshan with spell damage now. Like as before, the easiest way to kill Roshan was to just take a bunch of minus armor and put on him and just right click him and he would die really quickly. But now the minus armor strat is a lot less good because the Roshan got so much armor, and the way armor scales is like around 1, 2, 3, and especially if you get it below 0, then the armor is doing a lot. But it doesn't matter that much if you have like 20 armor or 15 armor. That doesn't matter that much. So the minus armor strat is not that good against Roshan anymore. And the same thing here, it's spell damage is just better. They're really trying to implement spell damage. Yeah. So, the last thing I want to say about this guy is that I played a bunch of games, and I was like, I was just trying out Axe in the new jungle, and I was thinking, all right, maybe I can just kill a few camps and stack the Ancients. And then I went over to this guy and I tried to stack him. And first of all, you cannot stack with IT. IT does not work on these, so you can't do the normal IT stacking trick that I've been showing you a couple of times, where you can just put IT on him, shift key, click your own hero backwards, so you don't have to actually get close. You can't do that. You actually have to get in all the way with your hero. And apparently, this happened to me. You have to be really careful, because if you're not careful, this guy is just gonna hit you. And if he hits you once, then he's gonna freaking root you for 2 seconds, and then you die. And I was like, oh, right. So it's really difficult to actually stack Ancients with a melee hero now. At least you have to be very careful about this guy. You have to drag one of the other guys if possible. Just keep that in mind when you're stacking as a melee hero. As a ranged hero, it's a lot easier to stack. So other map changes is not so relevant for us. Something like tier 4 towers have the same regeneration and Ancients and stuff like that. It's all good, but it's not that relevant for junglers. Illusions is nerfed heavily in this patch. Also cool, but not that relevant for junglers. Except for the fact that the way to nerf some of the illusions is that they buff the radiance for the normal hero, and then they nerf the radiance for illusions. So there's one way that this is really affecting one jungler in particular, I think, and that's the Lone Druid, because his bear is not technically an illusion. So Lone Druid got some love here, I really think so, and there's a few other things, but I'll get to Lone Druid when we get to him. So the root mechanics. are disabled for the following movement spell, like Burrow Strike, Waveform, Blink Strike, Phantom Strike, Reality Rift, Pounce, Skewer, Ball Lightning, Timber Chain, Rolling Boulder, Icarus, Dive, Leap, Poof, and Time Walk. Basically, it's a lot better to root people now. It's a lot better to... You really have to either Manta or BKB to get out of the root now, and I like this. And again, this is a huge buff to Lone Druid, and this hero is not bad. He just has some really specific weaknesses. But he's been buffed and he's been buffed, and now he is even better. Because like I said before, the Radiance itself is better on the bear. And he's one of the guys that can maybe get it even quicker, because he can actually rotate between the camps, and he's not affected that much by the fact that you cannot stack the jungle. He can get some bounty runes. He can heal up his bear on the shrine. He can maybe even kill the ancients like fairly early on. So I think Lone Druid might actually be really good now, and this root mechanic definitely helps him. Like because when you bear attack something, you can root people. So especially like against the Storm Spirit, you just couldn't kill a Storm Spirit with a Lone Druid before, but now you can, because if you just root him once, then he cannot Ball Lightning to safety. So maybe you can stun lock him, or keep rooting him, or just kill him in that 2-second root duration. It's possible. So a big buff for Lone Druid. This whole root mechanics, a big buff for Lone Druid. And also a buff for, what's it called? The Rod of Atos, which I'll get to in a minute. The Rod of Atos also got reworked completely, so it now roots. So this is a thing now. So let's look at the items. Surprisingly, there were not a lot of changes to either hero or the items. I mean, obviously there's a lot of changes with all the new skill tree, but actual changes in a new patch like this used to be a bunch of changes to items and heroes, but it was not that much this time. And especially for the items that affect the jungle, I was like almost nothing. The bottle, obviously bottle only replenishes 2 charges when filled with a bounty rune. That is obviously a big deal, a big change to bottle. But like I said, I think the bottle is better now than it was before, simply because you have all these bounty runes around the map you can use it with. And regeneration now behaves like a blink, and only dispels if actual damage was taken, and only if the damage source is from a player or Roshan. This is huge, huge. And this is the same with, by the way, healing potions and clarity potions. This is, people need to realize that this is a giant buff to the jungle, because for a lot of junglers, you really struggle to get through that hard camp, and it was really important with Axe, like, you really wanted to make sure that you didn't die to this hard camp, and almost sometimes if you were unlucky with your spins, you might just die just before you could clear the camp. But now you can put a healing potion on yourself while you're killing the stack. It's a huge buff to junglers, so I really like this. And the other thing is, like, for jungle speed, for those of us who really care about getting the fastest pattern and getting the fastest level timings and stuff like that, when you also have to stop in the middle of your jungling to just wait for 5 seconds, 10 seconds while you're healing, that slows you down a little bit. And you don't have to. You can just really do whatever you want. You don't even have to think about getting your clarity cancelled or your healing self cancelled. You can just continue jungling, and then you can, you don't have to think about of your healing. It's really a huge deal. So I'm really excited about this. This is definitely gonna open some doors for some interesting jungle patterns. So I'm really looking forward to this. Especially clarity potions, like some of the heavy spellcaster junglers, like you probably know I did the Keeper of the Light jungling a while back, that was used in TI5 or something. That style of jungling heavily dependent on me staying on the high ground and having a clarity popped on me while I was killing the stacks, and then everything depended on the ability to not get your clarity cancelled while you were jungling from the high ground. That style of jungling, I mean, it's gonna be even better now, because a clarity potion doesn't get cancelled by neutrals. So that was really annoying, to say the least. So there are probably gonna be some really interesting junglers that just goes to the jungles with like 4 clarity potions, just spam your shit. I'm thinking just off the top of my head, maybe Zeus or Pugner or something with like a huge nuke, who can just keep using clarities on yourself to just kill some camps really quickly. Maybe that's gonna be a thing. I don't know, but it's really exciting stuff. I really like this change, and it is. People need to realize this is a huge buff to junglers. So this is good. Bracer doesn't matter, and Clarity Potion again, like I said before. Yeah, I already covered this. Is a really big change to junglers. Mango is a little bit cheaper. It's on sale. I can only assume that means that it's gonna continue to be cheaper. I don't know, but it's good. I'm one of the junglers who prefer to get a mango and a TP scroll early on so I can TP in and help an ally. So it's I sometimes do buy a mango when I'm jungling, so that's gonna be even better now. And I think they had to do this change actually. This change is forced because of the change to Clarity Potion. So when you can, Clarity Potion is so much better now, and when it doesn't get cancelled by neutral creeps and stuff like that, then they have to just improve the mango a little bit as well to just give it a little bit of balance. So I like this. It's a little bit cheaper, but it's not that huge of a deal. So healing self, like I said, really huge that you can actually kill a big stack with Axe or whomever, and you can just do a healing self while you're killing the freaking stack. So that's really good. Maybe you can even kill the ancient stack faster with Axe now. I mean, it remains to be seen, but it's definitely a huge deal. Helm of the Dominator. This is an interesting one because when I look at this, it seems like the item is not that great. I mean, you still pay 1800 gold for the ability to take over a creep and get a little bit of HP regeneration and stats and stuff. I don't know, it seems a little bit lackluster to me, but I mean, the 8 HP regeneration aura is huge if you do want to do this as a build up for jungling. And the thing about this item, if you do want to go for this item on certain heroes, I don't know what heroes would really want this yet, but if you do want to go for this item, the new Helm of the Dominator, then it's really good to do as a jungler because it got a great build up for jungler. You want to get Gloves of Haste as soon as possible on a lot of junglers, and headdress, regeneration in general is fine. So these two items are pretty good build up for when you're jungling. So you might want to see some junglers that want to get this as fast as possible, but I still doubt it. I mean, I'm not really sure why this item exists, to be honest. I don't really see the purpose of this item. Yeah, but we'll see. Okay, so here is maybe the biggest change to the jungle. Is the nerf to Iron Talon and Quilling Blade. Okay, so Iron Talon here no longer increases percentage, 40% for melee and 15% for range of base damage. Now provides 24 damage for melee and 7 bonus damage for ranged against non-hero units. So that would be neutrals. That's the reason you get it for jungling, excuse me. And this is the same change has been added to the Quilling Blade. The bonus damage now works against Roshan. That doesn't matter in the slightest because it's only 24 damage, so fine. Cooldown increase from 14 to 20. So this is a nerf to Iron Talon jungling. Of course it is, because the cooldown is increased to 20. It still works the same way. It's still like you can use it on the big creep and then it's easier to kill the entire camp. Fine. So the thing I was thinking is that I think I haven't played enough jungle to actually know this for sure yet, but I think this might not be such a big nerf after all, because the reason this got nerfed in this way, I'm thinking the reason you get 24 damage and 7 damage instead of the percentage-based damage is not because of jungling, it's because that freaking heroes like Morphling and Drow Ranger on the safe lane just picked up a random Quilling Blades at some point in the game because it was just such an efficient item to get to jungle faster, and then you held on to it for the longest time and then you sold it later on. It was a little bit abusive because it was percentage based, but now it's only flat damage, so it means that the Morphling and the Drow Ranger will not get this item in the mid game to increase their jungling. So the thing here is that how much is 40% of base damage compared to 24 damage? That is the bigger thing we have to think about here. And without having tried it, I think it's kind of the same. But there is a few junglers that this is bad, and there's a few junglers where this is really good. So let's think about heroes that has absolutely terrible damage. Like I'm thinking, for example, a hero like Shadow Fiend, who gets a Quilling Blade, that 7 damage might actually be huge for him. So I mean, you're never gonna go level 1 Shadow Fiend jungle. Even I would not do that. But even okay, actually I have done that before, but never mind. Okay, but you would probably not do that. But what I'm saying is, for a hero that has such a terrible base damage on level 1, the Quilling Blade might actually be really good because you get flat damage. It's not percentage based. So the same thing with the sniper. With sniper, you get 7 bonus damage instead of the 15%, which was almost nothing. So 7 bonus damage is fine for sniper. I mean, maybe it's not that much, but I mean, sniper attacks really fast, so the 7 damage might add up. So so maybe it's worth getting Quilling Blade when you try to jungle sniper if you want to do that. So maybe that's a thing. Maybe it's gonna be better on some heroes, some really fringe heroes, and maybe it's gonna be worse on a lot of other heroes. Like, so for example, on a hero like Void, who got like a 60% base damage, then I would say this is slightly worse because it's almost the same on level 1, isn't it? 40% of 60 and 24, fine, it's almost the same. But when your base damage increases, then the Iron Talon and the Quilling Blade is gonna fall off, especially on Void, who got such a big base damage. So those are just the little things you have to keep in mind. I mean, it doesn't change the game at all. You still, if you do the weird Void jungling, which I'm not even sure you can do anymore, but if you do that, where you can go to the high ground somewhere and attack the creeps where they cannot attack you, then you will still get the Quilling Blade and the Iron Talon. I mean, you would still do that if you jungle Axe or anybody. I mean, the heroes that would use the IT before would still get the IT now. It's not like a game-breaking, devastating nerf, but it's just a thing you have to think about. And for a few heroes, then it might actually be a slight buff that you get a flat bonus damage for the heroes that really has terrible base damage to begin with. It might be easier for those guys to actually jungle a little bit. So it remains to be seen, but it's yeah. So the Morbid Mask. Cost increased from 900 to 1200, now provides 15 damage. This almost doesn't matter, except for heroes that really want to farm that Morbid Mask really quickly. I was never a fan of that. I mean, you saw it on some Void jungling where you just got the mask of Morbid Mask first, and you've seen it on the... I did it myself when I was jungling Drow Ranger, trying to get the Morbid Mask pretty soon. I mean, I want to get Treads first because that increases the jungling speed. I don't understand people who gets Morbid Mask before even Treads or anything. But yeah, now that option is even worse than it was before, because there's a huge difference between 900 gold and 1200 gold in the beginning of the game when you are jungling and you have no items. There's no way you're gonna wait for 1200 gold before you buy your first item. That is terrible. It was terrible before, and it's absolutely, completely trash now. So don't do that. Please, please get your Treads beforehand. And for those heroes that need to sustain themselves with a Morbid Mask, hey, you can get healing selves now and Treads, and it's still gonna be faster and still more gold efficiently. So do that, it's a lot better. But bottom line, this is a nerf to the heroes that really want to get a fast Mask of Death when you're jungling, but it's not really that much. And the ones who wanted to do that is definitely not like compatible in pro games or anything like that. So it doesn't matter that much, but I just wanted to mention that. Medallion of Courage no longer has half values against Roshan. This is again, of course, the thing I was talking about before is Roshan got a ton of armor. So there's no reason that you would restrict this item against Roshan anymore, because the minus armor strat against Roshan is not going to be that efficient anymore. So, and the rest here is like late game items, doesn't that that much. The Necronomicon change, really interesting. It seems like a Necrobook got really buffed, so This is a big deal for Beastmaster. Beastmaster jungling, which is one of the junglers that doesn't rely on stacks, so he might be still really good now, maybe even better. So, and he likes to get a fast Necronomicon, so this might be really good. So the way they changed it, if I should just say that, Necronomicon Warrior attack type changed from basing to piercing. Necronomicon Warrior attack damage increased from 45, 60, 75 to 75, 100, 125. Necronomicon Warrior mana break reduced from 25, 50, 75 to 20, 30, 40. Necronomicon Archer Warrior armor type changed from hero to basic. Necronomicon Archer mana burn cooldown reduced from 20 to 7. So all of this is balancing. It doesn't matter that much, but this one is huge. You get a reduction of cooldown from 20 to 7. So it means that you don't have to actually hang on to your Necrobook for when you are ganking and you really want to have the cooldown ready for when you're going for kill. You can just use your cooldown all the time. You can even use your cooldown for jungling. You can use your cooldown for just randomly send your archers to the bottom rune to see if you can get a cheap D-ward with the true side. The Necronomicon archers, the Necronomicon minions are just really spammable now, and that's really good for this item. And by extension, this is really good for Beastmaster. So huge buff to Beastmaster here. And the other buff to Beastmaster, like I was saying, is Beastmaster can take advantages of the new jungle, and he's not hurt that much by the fact that the creeps only spawns once per 2 minutes. He can rotate between the camps. What Beastmaster can do actually is he can even stack both ancient camps at the same time with the boss if you want to do that. So if you want to have that really weird strategy where you still have some heroes on your team that really heavily relies on ancient stacks, Beastmaster is your guy because he can jungle and then he can send your level 1 board to the ancients and to the normal, I'm calling it the ancient, to the primary jungle ancient camp and to the secondary jungle ancient camp, and then you can, and then you can stack everything. Yeah, so there's some interesting ideas for Beastmaster. And Beastmaster is definitely buffed. So that's interesting. That's really interesting. Poor Man's Shield, non-hero proc damage reduced from 53 to 50. Almost nothing, but there was a few heroes where you might consider Poor Man's Shield. Axe, I didn't do it myself because I just like to be faster with the IT and the tactical suicide and stuff like that, but I've seen some Axe players that like to get the Poor Man's Shield. Maybe that's gonna be a better build now, because the tactical suicide is out of the question, so maybe that extra reduced damage that you get from a Poor Man's Shield compared to a normal Stout Shield, maybe that's gonna be worth it now. So you might see more Poor Man's Shield on Axe. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it yet, but it's an option. But yeah, obviously a slight nerf of 3%, nothing huge. Quilling Blade, we already talked about that. The no longer value increases a percentage of 40% for melee, 50% for range of base damage. Now provides 24 damage for melee, 7 damage for range to bonus against non-hero units, so neutrals. So this also affects Iron Talon, but not Battle Fury. Fine. Bonus now works against Roshan. Fine. Radiance. This is a change I do want to talk about, and I think I already did a little bit, but the Radiance damage increased from 50 to 60. Radiance damage on illusion reduced from 50 to 40. So they're really trying to nerf all the annoying illusion strats. You saw Terrorblade, Naga Siren, all the Alchemist, all the really annoying illusion Radiance heroes. They're trying to nerf that a little bit in some different ways. They nerf the illusions a lot, and they also are nerfing the Radiance hero, which is also indirectly, they're doing this because of the illusion heroes, right? But the thing is, like I was saying before, the hero that hugely benefits from this is Lone Druid. Because Radiance damage is increased from 50 to 60, that also works on his bear. Yeah, bear. Lone Druid got a bear, the other guy got a boar, Jesus Christ. So Radiance damage increased from 50 to 60 works on the Lone Druid's bear. So that is a huge deal. It's definitely a buff to Lone Druid, and if you add to that the other buff that I already talked about the root mechanic getting buffed, and the fact that Lone Druid can actually survive in the new jungle. He doesn't care about stacks. He doesn't care about the fact that the creeps only spawns 1 per 2 minutes. He can rotate between the camps pretty fast. He can maybe even go to the secondary jungle if he needs to. He can maybe even kill the ancients around the level 3 or 5 if he really wants to do that, but then he would require to heal up his bear with the shrine. But I mean, there are some options here. So Lone Druid is really good, and is even better now. So the Radiance is just another factor to buff Lone Druid. So yeah, it's cool. The Rod of Atos. I mean, it doesn't affect the junglers, but I was talking about this a little bit before, that the rooting mechanic is changed, and the item got reworked, so you don't actually slow anybody anymore. You apply a root that prevents people from moving for 2 seconds, and this is like a frostbite the way I see it. Even better than a frostbite, actually. People cannot escape from the root without doing some heavy things like Manta or BKB. Otherwise, they just cannot escape from the root, it seems. So the root is really good, and the Rod of Atos is... I mean, it remains to be seen if this item is actually gonna see some play now, but it's definitely better. The cast range got reduced, but the thing you have to think about is the cast range before was huge. The item was just useless. But now the cast range is still 1000, so you can stun somebody from 1000 away, and it feels sort of like almost a hex. So I think the item is good. I really do. I think it's definitely worth trying, especially for heroes that, especially it's even better for Skyros mage now, because instead of you just slow them and then you ulti them, you can now root them and ulti them, and the entire ulti will hit them if they don't have some heavy way to remove it like BKB or something. So interesting stuff. The rest here doesn't matter that much for jungling. Solar Crest, I mean, the only thing is the value against Roshan, but we already talked about that. Soul Ring, if you have a few really weird junglers that might want to get Soul Ring, it's a little bit more expensive, but 25 is nothing in Dota, so screw it. And you almost would never get this on junglers anyway. So Vanguard. Passive block chance reduced from 100 to 50. Passive block amount increased from 32 to 16 melee ranged to 70 and 35. So the chance that you get blocked is only half, but the percentage to get blocked is a little more than double. So technically, this should be a buff for Vanguard. Like, if you really want to get the really fast Vanguard and go Ancients and Axe, you can still do that, it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, it doesn't matter that much for the junglers, right? Because by the time you have a Vanguard, you're still strong enough to kill whatever. But the thing that's a little bit interesting here is that it's less consistent. So even though the overall values, percentage based and compared to the values, it's a slight buff to Vanguard, but it's less consistent, which means you can get extremely unlucky and not block as much. So it's sort of a buff to Vanguard, sort of a nerf. But I mean, for junglers, it's not a big deal. Vladimir's Offering no longer has a 300 gold recipe, so that's only because the Morbid Mask price of Morbid Mask has been increased. So Vladimir's Offering is the same item. If you want to get that as your build up, you still can, but you're definitely not gonna get the Mask of Death or Morbid Mask as the first item anymore. You definitely want to get the ring and the Basilius as your build up, the headdress. So, but again, there's really not a lot of junglers that really want to start off with a Vladimir's Offering right off the bat. So first of all, we got a Baron. I consider him a jungler. I have been jungling him quite successfully. What I do is I go in there, spend all my mana, and just choke point jungle in the old dire jungle, and then afterwards I did the tactical suicide so I could come back to the lane with a shield on me, and then I could go ham, and it was actually quite good. The thing about Abaddon is he's one of those junglers that are kinda having a game impact even though you are AFK jungling, because what I do is I take a TP scroll and mango, and then I'm ready to just TP in and counter gank or save my ally from a stun or something. If your mid lane gets arrowed, you can TP in and save him. So I really like Abaddon as a jungler. So the question is, in the new meta, in the new jungle, where the hell can you choke point jungle? I don't know that yet. I've been looking at it a little bit, and I didn't see any obvious places. But it's just a matter of finding them. There's some point you can choke point jungle, and it's still gonna be fine. So about the changes, Miscoil cast point reduced from 0.35 to 0.25. Miscoil now has a fast projectile, 2000 speed. Apodic shield cast point reduced from to 0.4. Okay, so a theme in this patch is to remove all the abilities that does something instantly. Like for example, Draconite stun used to be instant, but now it has a fast projectile. And the same thing about this Miscall, now has a fast projectile, but I mean, I wouldn't really consider it such a nerf to Abaddon because his cast point is improved and his Apodic shield cast point is improved. So, I mean, it's slight buffs, but it almost doesn't matter, I think. About his jungle capabilities, well, like I was saying, choke point jungle is still something you'd need to do. The tactical suicide definitely is not an option anymore. So what you might have to resort to is some sort of getting a bottle. He's one of the heroes that can really benefit from a bottle and picking up these bounty runes. Or he can even if you really want to speed up your jungling, you could just spend everything you got and then killing some camps, get to your level 3 really quickly, and then you can go to this shrine and just heal up completely with all your mana and your HP. And while you're doing that, you can put on an extra shield on yourself. So it's a bit of more value. So it's an option that you have. So he's one of the heroes that can definitely benefit from getting a bottle in the jungle, I think. So I think it's alright. I mean, I like the Abaddon jungle just because you can TP in and save your allies, and he's just a really fun hero to play. So, about this skill tree, I'm not gonna mention them a whole lot because, like I said, they don't really make that much of a difference for when you're jungling. But what I will say here is there's a few interesting things about the Abaddon skill tree or talent tree. I think they call it the talent tree. So clearly you can take the direction, do you want to go carry or do you want to go support? So a carry would probably take level 10 25 damage, and he would take the 5 armor, and he would take the movement speed and the strength, I would guess, something like that. The support route would probably be more like 15% experience gain and the mana and the cooldown reduction and the 200 shield HP bonus. That's actually pretty cool. I like the fact that they are really buffing some of these abilities when they get to 25. I mean, it almost will never make a difference, but it's kind of cool that shield is a lot better in the late game, in the very late game, because normally a hero like Abaddon, he really falls off. The reason Abaddon can continue to be good in the late game is if you go for some sort of scepter build, and the scepter can still be good in the late game, but like the shields and his heals, it really usually falls off in the late game because it doesn't scale, and your enemy just in the end they have so much damage that just burst through the heal you're putting on your allies. So I like this idea to buff the shield, 200 plus HP for the shield. So yeah, that's cool. And the Alchemist, the Gravel Grade's bonus multiplier rescaled from 3, 4, 5, 6 to a constant of 2. It's still, like I said before, it's something they had to do because of all the bounty runes. So if you really want to jungle Alchemist, then you still can. I mean, I really don't like it. But what you could do on the Radiant is you could double stack a few camps, and then you can clear them pretty fast with the Cloud. And then you can gradually pick up all these runes. I guess Bottle would still be good on Alchemist if you really want to jungle him, but I don't mean... It's something you can do, but I really don't like it. I don't think it's very good. Put your Alchemist on the mid lane or put your Alchemist on the safe lane. It's much better. So, Anti-Mage is technically a jungler. I mean, it's not even completely terrible for pop games. It's better than Alchemist, I think. So anti-mage, it's just about finding all the choke point jungling, and he can blink into the trees. And in the old jungle, he could prevent the enemy creeps from, or the neutral creeps from attacking him by blinking us into certain places of the trees, and then he could get some free hits off that way. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's not a mainstream jungler, so it's not that important, I guess. But there's still, I guess he can still jungle somehow. So Axe. This is kind of important, like I showed you in your previous patch. Axe can jungle really quickly, and in the previous patch, I actually managed to jungle him like he was the fastest jungler in the patch. So the thing about Axe is he really benefits from stacks, and those stacks are nerfed now. So what was really good before was you could stack the hard camp 2 times, and you could kill it at the 3-minute mark, and then you were good to go. Then you were freaking level 3 or 4, and you had all your stuff to go, and you could clear the rest of the jungle very easily, and you could get your level 6 even before 4 minutes. So it was really good before. I don't know how he's gonna perform now, but I still think he's gonna be good. I mean, the thing you should think about here is Axe is one of those heroes that can also really benefit from the fact that you can heal yourself while you're killing a stack. So like, for example, the hard camp stack, you can at least stack it once, right? You can stack it at the 1-minute mark. And if you then do some other stuff, then you can stack it at the 3-minute mark, and then you can clear it. So you have your jungling is complete after you've killed the 3 stack at the 3-minute mark. And it's actually not that bad. You can do that. So if you do that, you can have a healing salve on yourself, and you can heal yourself while you're actually killing the stack. And that is really good. I mean, it makes it more consistent in a way that you make sure you just don't die to the stack because you're really unlucky with the spins. Now you can actually just use the healing salve while you're killing the stack, and this way you can make sure you don't die. So the question is if this could be really good, because what about you just stack the ancients at the 1-minute mark and the 3-minute mark? So you have or maybe even at the 5-minute mark as well. So you have a big juicy ancient stack at the 5-minute mark. So I wonder if he can actually kill the ancients at the 5-minute mark, because normally if he would kill the ancients by himself, he would need a vanguard, and you're not going to get a vanguard by 5 minutes. So the question is it enough that you can just heal yourself with a healing salve, and you also have the shrine, which is right next to the ancients area? I think that might be enough, that he can kill a big ancient stack by having those 2 tools available to him, the healing salve and the shrine right next to him. So it's gonna be something I'm gonna have to look into, because that could be really interesting, and maybe he can still be the fastest jungler. I mean, we will see. It's definitely not out of the question. And in any case, even without the big stacks, he can still jungle really quickly. So he's never gonna be bad. Never gonna be bad. But the biggest thing you have to think about, I think, is the huge buff that is that you can heal yourself. You can heal yourself with a healing salve while you're killing the big stacks. That's a huge thing about Axe, I think. Yeah. Bad Rider? I tried to clear the big ancient stacks by putting 10 napalm stacks and clearing them, and I could barely clear them with my level 8. If you have 4 points in your sticky napalm and 4 points in your firefly, and you put 10 stacks on them, he could only just clear the stacks. So there is that. He can definitely help out in that respect, but I guess he would need one more hero to really do it. But it still doesn't make him a real jungler. He should still be off lane or mid lane, I think. There's no point in putting him in the jungle. But it's just a little curious idea I had, that he can technically clear the big stacks now. The big ancient stacks, he can even clear that, so yep. Beastmaster, however, that is a good jungler, and he is gonna be maybe even better now. So a lot of things about Beastmaster. First of all, the Necronomicon buff is huge, like I said, because Beastmaster, he really loves that item, and when the Necronomicon gets buffed, it's good for Beastmaster. So that's one thing. So with Beastmaster, you don't actually rely on stacking. So the fact that the creeps don't spawn at the 2-minute mark, it's not that big of a nerf to him, because he can still he got more camps to work with now, so he can still rotate between the camps fairly quickly. And I think it's still gonna be pretty good. If you get really low, you have the option to go to that shrine, because sometimes if you micro a little wrongly and you are tranquil boots, if you go in that direction, you fuck up a little bit and you get hit, then he can still it's kind of a pretty good protection that he can just go up there and heal himself up to full. And I think he's gonna be still really good. I mean, he can definitely, he can even get a bottle now. He's one of the heroes that can definitely get a bottle. I mean, you would still want your I guess IT and stout shield before the bottle, but then he can do it. And then but I mean, it's a matter of preference, I guess. I guess you don't have to. The normal tranquil boots are still a good way to go. The thing is, I like the tranquil boots because I like the fact that you have the movement speed, so you can go gank exactly when you hit level 6. Then you can smoke up, maybe even with the other support, smoke up, get a kill. That's kind of the point of Beastmaster jungling. So actually, when I think about it, I think bottle might actually not be good on him, just because of that. Yeah, well, okay, so about the talent tree here. There's some interesting things going on. First of all, I think it's really interesting that you can get a 15% experience gain on level 10. I mean, the movement speed is also great, but if you wanna continue to be relevant throughout the game, I think the experience might definitely be something you would want to do. The respawn time is also great. So there's a lot of things. I think his talent tree here is really good, actually. There's a lot of things. I mean, if you want to still play the initiating supporting role, then you don't get the damage, 120 damage in the end. Then you get the 125 wild axe damage, because that is a lot, and this is, I believe, physical or pure damage. So you can it's really good for anti-pushing. You can really clear a creep wave really easily. So Beastmaster's gonna be relevant, and I like the fact that he's getting buffed like this, because he was falling out a little bit. So yeah, good stuff. Bloodseeker is again one of the heroes that doesn't really rely on stacks, so he can just he needs to choke point jungle a little bit in the early few levels, and when he does that, he's good to go. It's just blood rage yourself and do the thirst, and then you can continue to just hit creeps and heal up that way. So you have to be careful in the first few levels, and you need to find the new places you can choke point jungle. I haven't looked into that so much as of yet, but I'm definitely going to. So Bloodseeker got this buff. Thirst now lingers for 2 seconds after target dies. And I think this is a much huger buff than you might actually think, because then now you can get in, do all your stuff, get a kill, and then you can actually get out. Normally when you're getting a kill, rupture takes a long time. So normally when you rupture somebody and you do your whole combo and you go in there and you hit them, normally backup can arrive. So it's often like, if you manage to kill him, then you die immediately after, because then the heroes that are gonna back up the hero you're killing, then they're gonna kill you instead. But now with these 2 seconds of extra time, then you actually have a lot of movement speed to actually get the hell out after you kill somebody. So I think that's really good, and I think it's a really big buff, actually. I think it's good. His tree, his talent tree, is also really interesting. Like, he got a lot of tools here to go full carry. I mean, he get the okay, so let's take it like on level 10 you can get 5 armor, 25 damage. Again, this is reminiscence of the fact, are you going to go carry? Because I think 25 damage is really good. If you more want to be the initiating, I'm gonna stay in the back, maybe have a Dagon or something, then armor might be good. The attack speed is really good if you're going full on right click, and HP on level 15, it's still, I mean, it's a matter of preference, isn't it? But I'm just saying here that you can get damage, you can get attack speed, and you can get well, stats or respawn time, and then you can get the 30% lifesteal if you want to go full carry. And when I say full carry with Bloodseeker, it's usually something like you get Treads of Face Boots, and then you get a Blade Mail, and then you get a BKB, and then you just get from there just freaking right click items like Butterfly, like Mjolnir, whatever you want to do. So it's a really, he can do a lot of damage, actually. Even in the late game, he can do a lot of damage if he just gets a hit in the game and has a lot of right click items, then he's gonna be really relevant. Just with a BKB and a lot of right click, then this hero can do a lot of damage, and he can do even more now with these buffs. So I think it's interesting, and he's definitely still gonna be a good jungler because yeah, he doesn't really get hurt by the nerfs so much. So Brewmaster, well, he can jungle, but I'm not. He's one of the junglers I really haven't touched on yet. I mean, I know he can do it, but I don't like this hero very much, and I haven't really jungled him this much, so I can't really say. But he's not a great jungler, but I think technically he can jungle. So there's red. The same with Bristleback. I don't think it's worth jungling Bristleback at all. Broodmother jungling is actually kind of interesting. I don't think you should do it. I never think in any circumstance you should ever jungle Broodmother, simply because the point of Broodmother is put him in the off lane and pressure the safe lane. That's the point of the hero. He doesn't really scale as well as other heroes if you waste all his offensive capability on the off lane by going into the jungle. I mean, it's really a waste of the hero, but if you want to do it, if you want to go jungle with this hero, he can jungle really fast. So you can do that, and you can I mean, in your pubs, if you really like Broodmother, if it's like one of your favorite heroes, and you don't want to take advantage of the fact that the enemy might have a weak safe lane, and then you pick Broodmother and you completely crush their safe lane. I mean, that's normally how you use Broodmother. But if you don't care about all that stuff, if you just want to jungle him, get some right click, get your BKB going, and just hit people, then it's really good. He's getting some stuff here. So again, he doesn't really care about stacks either. So if you really want to jungle Broodmother, you still have that option. The Centaur, I tried to jungle him, is not very good. I don't think so. I mean, you can, and maybe he's one of the heroes that can benefit from a bottle, or maybe you can heal up with a shrine. I mean, you can jungle him, but again, I just think it's a better hero on the offlane. So Chaos Knight, he got some interesting stuff. I don't think he shouldn't jungle, but he can definitely he can be the roaming sort of hero. Like it seems like a roaming Chaos Knight is a little bit more viable now, simply because he can get a scepter that okay, so where is it? Added scepter reduces cooldown by 20 seconds and allows phantoms to be cast on allied heroes. So really cool. You can take a big hit harding hero like, I don't know, Tiny or something with some demolition. I don't know if it works on the bear from Lone Druid. That'll be kind of weird, but you can take a big hard-hitting hero, and then you can use your ulti on that guy, and then you can siege tower. So that's a really interesting aspect of the hero. And this would fit with the roaming Chaos Knight, because obviously if you're gonna go carry, you really want to use your ulti on yourself. And the scepter on Chaos Knight is not really something you want to do if you're going carry. So it's interesting. It might actually be a good scepter upgrade. So and if my point is, if you want to do this roaming Chaos Knight, which is kind of good, I mean, you might fall out later, but it's definitely an option. But if you want to do that, you still have the options to go into the jungle and clear a few camps. You don't want to, you stay away from hard camps, and stay away from ancients, of course, but the medium camps, you can usually get some of those to get you going a little bit, but normally you just want to spend most of your time roaming and not really jungling. Chen. What about Chen? Penitence, slow, and amplification, I guess, increased by from 15, 20, 25, 30 to 18, 24. So it got buffed with 3 per level. No, actually, it got, okay, yeah. Not exactly 3 per level, but you know, it got buffed a little bit. And added overhead for the damage dealt with Test of Fate is just a minor improvement. So I think there was something about Chen that was interesting in this patch. What was it? His he's on level 25. First of all, he can get 2 more holy persuasion max count on level 25 here, so which is cool. I mean, it means that he can, if you want to continue pushing, he can still do that. He's a bit more relevant in the late game. So this is again one of the heroes that really thrive in the early game, and he falls off later. So what they have done is on level 25 he gets some huge buffs that makes him, at least to some extent, be a bit more relevant in the late game. 200 Hand of God heal is also really good. I mean, if you have a scepter and you can do this every 20 seconds or when it's really good. I mean, he got some options here. Kling's Clockwork, Crystal Maiden, Scepter reworked. Reworked Crystal Maiden Scepter now applies Frostbite to any unit that has been standing in the freezing field for over 2.5 seconds. So an enemy can only be affected once. So a nice little cool upgrade. It's not that great, but it's cool. And Crystal Maiden. About these new ancients, Crystal Maiden can actually kill the ancient stack, but she's gonna need a lot of levels to do it. Like she's gonna need, I think I tried it with my level 16 ultimate. I didn't have a scepter, but level 16 ultimate you could like almost kill the ancient. You need just a little more. I think I did Nova and Gen ulti, and it almost killed all of the ancients. So, and that was like with my level 18, right? Level 3 ultimate. So it's not very good, but it's at least I tested it. And also another thing I tested is the Frostbite on the ancient creeps. Is something you can do, and but like I was saying before, it's not great because it doesn't work for 10 seconds and only works for 2 seconds, so it's definitely not worth it. And even that creep that doesn't have the magic resistance, the new creep, he just heals himself so fast that there's really no point. So stay away from the ancients with Crystal Maiden, unless you want to stack with 4 you are carrying. Darkseer. Wall of Replica no longer deals damage for when the heroes walk through it. Wall of Replica applies 1 second 75% slow to units that cross and proc the wall. So definitely a little nerf to the Wall of Replica. Sometimes you could do a lot of damage with that thing. In the case of a team fight, if one of the enemy heroes was like continuing to stand in the wall and they kept killing the illusion, and then the wall kept doing more and more damage. I think it felt like it was a little bit abusive, perhaps, and this is why Valve chose to remove it, because it shouldn't work that way. So I'm guessing this is why they changed it. I don't think it's necessarily because they hate Darkseer and think he's overpowered. I think they just didn't like that mechanic, that you could just stand in the wall and continue to take damage, because maybe you had you were less Shrek and you had your ulti on and you continued to kill the illusion and then just took more and more damage, and all of a sudden you just died because you took so much damage from the wall. They didn't really want that. That's not really what the hero was about. So it was a little fringe incident that happened sometimes. So I think that's why they changed it. So it is a nerf, and I think it's a bit undeserving, but I don't think it really matters. It doesn't matter that much. But here's the thing about Darkseer. His tree is really interesting, his talent tree. So on level 10, I mean, evasion is always great, but I think almost in every case you want to take the 100 cast range, because that affects your vacuum. It means that you can more easily get into position to search your teammates at the right time. So cast range is really good on Darkseer, and it's definitely gonna help with your vacuum combo, so that's really good. And then you have, for some reason you can get 90 damage. It feels like a little bit of a troll that all of these intelligence heroes just get so freaking much damage. It's like, alright, if you really want to have fun, you can do right click and you can punch people, and it's alright. I mean, 90 damage is a lot. And the other thing is, if you're already running either Crimson Guard or Mechanism guarding Greaves on a Darkseer, why would you really need 14 health regen? I mean, 14 health regen is kind of better if you don't really have any other natural way to sustain yourself. So maybe the 14 health regen is not that much of a big deal, and maybe you sometimes should like, well, I heal plenty. I have these teamfight items anyway, that's my job, so I'm just gonna take the damage just because I like to punch people. I mean, that's the thing. You can go a curious late game and you can do a little bit of right click damage. It'll be funny. So here is the other cool thing. I mean, on level 20, you can get some intelligence strength. Fine, it's not really one I want to touch on. I want to touch on level 25. You can get another 70 iron shell damage, which might be a big thing. I mean, it's gonna depend on the game, but this is a lot of damage. And I mean, if you have a hero that can stay on top of people, like I'm thinking about Ember Spirit or Night Stalker or something like that, this is gonna be a lot of magic damage, and even in the late game, that's gonna continue to be relevant. So the Iron Shield damage definitely not something to be trifled with, and obviously the 12% cooldown reduction is also cool. It's more like if you really want to prioritize the team fight capabilities and you think there's going to be a lot of vacuum wall going on, then the cooldown is also cool. It's a matter of preference, but the bigger thing definitely is the 100% cast range you can get on level 10. I think that's pretty huge, and I think that's a buff to Darkseer. So a little bit of more science I've done on Darkseer. I was so ready to make another unlimited stacking video because I saw this map and I was like, oh, the ancients, you can maybe stack them onto the hill and it's gonna be so much fun. But unfortunately Valve did their homework and you cannot stack the ancients onto the hill. The vacuum doesn't affect the ancients in the slightest. So it seems there is so many exceptions to the ancients. I mean, they had to do it, but it's like, when we were looking at the ancients, how they changed it earlier, they were like very specific. Oh, Timbersaw, by the way, it cannot affect the ancients. Fine, but they should have written all the other stuff that doesn't affect the ancients instead of me going into lobby games like being really happy and then I get disappointed. So vacuum doesn't work on the ancients, and like some of the other heroes I was trying out. Doom Devour doesn't work until level 25. You can choose to make it work. And the Frostbite is garbage, and the Eidolons doesn't work. So I tried a lot of these heroes just to test it, and most of them really doesn't work. And this is not worth really trying it out. But you know, I had to try it, but because if there was some way to abuse it, it's my job to find it so I can make a really fast jungler. So yeah. But you can still, if you want to, you can still vacuum some of the other creeps onto the high ground. So there is that. You have the option. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. You can do it. Doom was the guy I really hope could devour an ancient at level 1, because that would be freaking broken and you can make a really fast jungler. But unfortunately that doesn't work. So he can still jungle, but he's not very good. He's not very fast. But he's one of the heroes that is good with a bottle. He needs a little bit of sustainability. The thing about a bottle on Doom is, if you can continue to get the runes, you can sustain yourself because you need the mana for obviously the Devour, and also you heal. So if you get more mana on this hero, you can convert it into HP through your heal, and it's kind of good. It's a good way to jungle, but it's not very fast. I will say it's not very fast. So he's one of the fringe junglers that you might have some fun with in your pop games, but it's not very competitive. So Drow Ranger. Well, movement speed reduced by 10. Doesn't matter that much. The thing about Drow Ranger is mostly the Morbid Mask nerf. It costs 300 more gold, and I think that's kind of big. But it also means that you can build your Drow Ranger in a slightly different way if you want to jungle her. You can get more build-up items and go for the treads. I mean, you would want to go the treads anyway, but you can get something like I don't know, maybe treads into a few bracers, no, not braces, wraith bands, maybe some wraith bands and treads, and then you can get even start on your Yasha or something. I mean, if you just have a safe distance to the creeps, you can still do it. And the thing that struck me about the Drow Ranger jungling is, especially I'm thinking about the raid inside here. You can still do the high ground jungling on the first two camps, which you can stack and you can kill a few times. It's still definitely possible. And then after you get your first few items, you can maybe even transition into the Ancients area in your own jungling, because I mean, before you could kill the Ancients at the secondary jungle, or what I like to call the owned Ancients area. It was kind of alright, but maybe there's a way you can actually kill the Ancients in your own jungle by a little bit of hit and run. You shouldn't do it on level 1, definitely, because you're not gonna do enough damage, and you don't have, the way I see it, you don't have a specific point you can stand on and be safe while you're hitting them. So you need to get your treads, and you need to do a little bit of hit and run. But maybe it's an option that you can transition your Drow Ranger into the Ancients a little later on. It's interesting. If nothing else, you can definitely stack up the Ancients and then kill the other camps, and then you can return to kill the big Ancient stack once you have your lifesteal and you have your Yasha and maybe your level 11. So it's I think it's alright. Already before, I did a few speedruns on Drow Ranger, and I stacked the old Ancients area. I went all the way over there and I stacked it all the way back to my own jungle. So now you have some more camps to work with, so you can maybe clear the entire jungle, including the Ancients, and it's gonna be good. I mean, Drow Ranger is one of the junglers. It excels so fast once you get your level 6. When you get your level 6, she jungles really, really quickly. So, but the whole point about jungling from level 1 is when can you actually get your level 6. And before I could get it just below the 5-minute mark, which in my opinion is just in the area of where it's not even worth it. But maybe you can get it a little faster now with if it's easier to hit level 6. I'm not exactly sure how the experience is is divided now, so, but it's interesting. It's an option. Enchantress. Well, the thing about Enchantress, and I didn't really mention this with Jen either, is it kind of hurts you that you don't have any creeps on the 2-minute mark, because normally what is something you want to do with especially Enchantress is you want to take over a specific creep that can be really annoying for the mid lane, and then you just send it in there. And it's usually it's gonna hurt you that you can't do that on the 2-minute mark. Like, it was so annoying if you could get like a Wild Wing or one of those mana burn creeps or something, and just put him onto the safe lane on the mid lane to really annoy the other guy. It was really good. So it hurts you a little bit that you can't do that. But I mean, the way Enchantress and Chen works is still, you get a creep, you kill a few camps, and then you go and try to make an impact on the lane. I don't really see Enchantress and Chen as hard junglers. It's more like you get a creep and then you make some ganks happen. They're more like roamers who just happen to start off in the jungle to get some creeps. So, and you can still do that. I mean, you're not really reliant on the big stacks. So Enchantress and Chen are still fine, and I mean, it's not that bad. I don't think any of them can really touch the Ancients area, but you can still rotate between the camps. And if you do want to go aggressive, then you have an extra camp you can jungle on the way to the offlane if you want to rotate into the enemy jungle. So there's that. There's both a hard camp and a medium camp at the secondary jungle. So that's something you can think about. The same is the case with Enigma, of course. It's a little bit of the same thing, that if you want to go aggressive, then you have 2 camps on the secondary jungle you can work with. If they ward off all of your camps, then you have 2 camps on the secondary jungle you can go with, and then you can transition into the enemy jungle, be aggressive. So it's kind of a big deal that the secondary jungle got 1 more camp, because it means that you can stay there for a minute and actually just get that extra level you need or something before you rotate into the enemy jungle. So it's kind of alright. But Enigma, in contrary to Enchantress and Chen, he can just stay in the jungle and he can farm really quickly. In my Enigma guide, I was talking about the two ways you play Enigma. Either you go aggressive and make a lot of ganks happen before you're level 6, or you just power jungle completely insanely fast. And then you get your level 6, and then you make something happen. You push down towers or whatever. So if you do want to go for that heavy farming route, where you just get a really fast level 6, you can still do that, but it kind of hurts you that the creeps are not spawning at the 2 minute mark. It feels like you're gonna miss some creeps. But here is the good news. The Eidolon movement speed increased from a little bit, like 20 more movement speed on your Eidolons. And this might not seem like a big deal, but it actually is, because the way Enigma works is he converts some of the creeps into Eidolons, and then they multiply, and then he often rotates all his Eidolons to the next camp, and then they're gonna do a lot of damage to the next camp. And when they're moving into the next camp, this is where the Eidolons are most efficient, because this is after they've multiplied. So if you have more movement speed when you can do that, then it can actually end up being a really big deal. So this is a buff to Enigma jungling. I really think so. And the other thing is Enigma is one of the few junglers who can actually transition into killing the ancient camp at some point. The question is, he can do it. He can do it on level 5. He might even be able to do it sooner. But the question is, when is it actually worth it to kill off the ancient camp compared to just killing the normal camps? So that's gonna be something I'm gonna look into. But I mean, the point I'm trying to make: if you run out of creeps in the rest of the jungle, if you already took the 2 camps, okay, let's say Radiant. If you took the 2 camps closest to your mid lane, and the other camps are kind of a bit more risky because of the enemy aggressive tri-lane or whatever, then you have this option to just transition either to the secondary jungle, or you can maybe even go and kill some of the ancients, and that's something you can do. So you have some options with Enigma. It's pretty hard to actually shut Enigma down, because no matter where if you go aggressive tri-lane, or if you just have some roamers that really wanna stay on you, and you have the option to go to the secondary jungle, you have some options. And it's gonna be kind of hard to shut you down as Enigma, I think. So he's still gonna be a very strong jungler. And also, I'm gonna talk about this a bit more when we actually see the map. But the new camp on the Radiant side, it feels like the camps are a little more closer together, and that's really good for the Eidolons for when they're moving, and also for when you want to stack an extra camp with Enigma. So this is some way you can come back. I mean, in the very first minute you want to kill the hard camp and then stack the medium camp, but if you also actually have the time to stack the other medium camp, which is going to be pretty close to you on the Radiant jungle, that might be something to consider. And at the 3-minute mark, you will almost always have the option to send an Eidolon over to stack the ancients. So he's one of the heroes that can, if you play him right and if you practice it, you can actually get away with stacking a bunch of camps, and it might be really good. And it might be the way to go now, since you're gonna be running out of creeps at some point. Then the stacks might be even more important than they were before. So it's something to think about. It's I'm gonna have to redo my Enigma jungle guide, along with every other hero in the game. So yay me. So Gyrocopter, he's kind of interesting actually, because the thing about Gyrocopter is, to begin with, he was like this troll hero. Nobody know what the hell was the point of this hero. Then they figured out, alright, he's actually a pretty good carry. But now they're kind of leaving him away from the carry spot. He is hard to play as a hard carry now, because it feels like there are just better options, and also his ability to clear ancients are just not that great. He's getting really hurt by the fact that the new neutral creep, the neutral ancients, that new creep, that it got HP regeneration aura, because he's really not that fast at killing the ancients. Normally he would need his team to help him a little bit. So he's not that great of a carry in my opinion. So the question is, how can you actually use a hero like Gyrocopter? People, or some of the teams, has been experimenting about maybe you can use him in some sort of roaming support role, and he definitely has the skill set to do that. So it's interesting to play him as a kind of support. And the other thing is, he can actually jungle fairly fast. It's not great, but he's one of the heroes that has a really low base damage but a lot of attack speed. So maybe that new Quilling blade will actually be a little bit of a buff for him. It's hard to say, but I mean, he might actually get a few levels on the jungle, and then he can, maybe once he gets his level 3 or 4 or something, maybe he can transition into get a gank going. But starting him off in the jungle is interesting. And I think it might actually be something worth considering, even though you never hear about Gyrocopter jungling, but it could actually be a thing. Juggernaut is one of the heroes that would choke on jungle just a little bit, and then he could actually jungle pretty quickly. Like consistently, I could get my level 6 at 5 minutes, even before 5 minutes, at 4 something, just below the 5-minute mark, and that's actually kind of good on a Juggernaut. So he's definitely not a bad jungler, and maybe he's better now. I mean, it's hard to say. He can heal. He can benefit a lot from the shrine, for example, because he can use all his mana on the healing ward, and he can use all his HP to punch the creeps down, and then he can go and heal, and then he's good to go. He can maybe get through the other couple of levels, and then he got his level 6 and he's ready to gank. So Juggernaut might actually be a better jungler now. Keeper of the Light, one of my signature junglers, you might say. I have no idea. I mean, it's I'm gonna look into that later, but it's the actual high ground jungling is gonna be different now. But I can see it feels like the Radiant jungle is just better. It really feels that way to me, and it's gonna be very interesting if there's a lot of what I've missed on the dire side. But it feels like the Radiant is just where you want to play these fringe junglers, like for example Keeper of the Light, again closest to the mid lane, and the what used to be the hard camp close to the mid lane, which is now the medium camp. They switched around those two camps, but the 3 camps closest to your base, let's say it's like that. Those 3 camps might actually be something that Keeper of the Light can really work with. Maybe he can actually clear all those 3. Maybe there's even a way that he can stack all 3 camps at the 1 minute mark, which, like I said before, could be really valuable now, since no camps will stack at the 2 minute mark. So if you can stack everything at the 1 minute mark, you'll have more stuff to work with. So maybe that's something you can do with Keeper of the Light now. So interesting. It's I'm not sure if he's ever gonna be as good as he was before. You could get a huge stack and you could kill it with Illuminate. The thing that really killed Keeper of the Light jungling, or at least made it less viable, was because of the change where the neutral creeps in the hard camp got a big stackable magic resistance aura, so which meant that it was a lot harder to kill with Illuminate. So that's something that killed it a little bit, but maybe it's all right. Maybe he can somehow stack both medium camps to some huge stacks, maybe even, and if he can do that, then it's easy to kill those. So there's still potential in this hero, especially as a jungler. I mean, the thing about Keeper of the Light is he is a really strong hero at repelling the enemy push, and he can be a really strong hero if you can get a fast scepter. So this is also something I'm gonna look into. He's not dead. The old guy is not dead. Definitely not. Conker is one of the last guides I made in the old patch rather, and he's a surprisingly good jungler. And you wouldn't think it by playing him but again, what I did is I really abused the tactical suicide, and this way I could get in there and kill the big stack, and that could give me a boost so I could get through the early couple of levels, which are gonna really difficult with Conker. But the thing you can do now with Conker is you can get a bottle, and you can use all your HP and mana, and then you can get a bounty rune, and then you can fill up a little bit, and then you can do the same thing. You can power jungle by really spamming some torrents and using your HP to kill a couple of camps, and then maybe you can get a TP scroll, and then you can, after you've refilled your bottle, then you can also go back to base and refill your bottle, and then If you manage to refill your bottle twice, then you will reach level 5 or something, and then you're good to go. As soon as you get level 4 or 5 with Conker, you really can jungle quite easily. So the thing is, you just need a couple of items to win with. You need somehow to tank, and you need some sort of region, and it's just hard to just get all of these items like stout shield and more region and all that stuff. And you also want smoke on this hero in case you want to go gang and something. So if you want all this stuff and then you also want a bottle, it's gonna be kind of difficult. But there's definitely some options here. Especially, I think you will need a bottle in Concat, because the way that you can abuse it, where you just X mark yourself on yourself and then go back to base, refill your bottle and heal up completely, and then you can go back to the jungle. I think that can be really powerful. So, and like I said, bottle is even better now with all the bounty runes spawning everywhere. So, Legion Commander. Okay, so overwhelming arch damage per hero increased from 20, 40, 60, 80 to 30, 60, 90, 120. Overwhelming odds base damage rescaled from 40, 80, 120, 160 to 40, 60, 80, 100. So basically what this means is it's better if you hit more heroes and the base damage is reduced. So if you hit 2 heroes, then it's better than it was before, basically. And if you only hit 1 hero, then it's a bit worse. There's a lot of discussion going around how should you actually level the Legion Commander. The Legion Commander is one of the good junglers that is so good at jungling that she got some freedom to actually choose how you would skill her. So overwhelming odds is something, when I jungle Legion Commander, I first of all I get my passive, Moment of Courage, and then I get press the attack, Moment of Courage, press the attack, Moment of Courage, and then my ulti, of course. So usually I don't have overwhelming odds when I go gank at level 6. But then immediately after I hit level 6, I try to skill up my overwhelming odds as fast as possible. The next 4 levels is just gonna go into overwhelming odds. So the way I see it is, when you're jungling Legion Commander, if you can afford to do so, then by all means skill overwhelming odds as soon as you can. I think it's a really good nuke in the early game, and I think despite this nerf, or what you want to call it, it's still gonna be good. But if you're struggling to uphold your jungling speed, then you kind of want to skill the other two, and then you get your overwhelming odds later. So this is my take on the hero. I will say about Legion Commander, on level 25, you can get 40 dual damage. That is cool, and that's per duel. I mean, you can get so much. I mean, my record is like 300 damage, but now it's if you get 40 dual damage per duel, I mean, that's a lot. But again, this is level 25, and it's not gonna be that relevant. Usually the game has been decided at that point. And also the other thing is, the other option you have at level 25 is 25% cooldown reduction, which is also really good. And probably actually better. Probably that's what you want in the late game. But come on, 40 dual damage. That's amazing. So lifestealer jungling, I don't think it's something you want to do. I think it's better to lane lifestealer somewhere, but it's something you can do. But again, it depends on how good the choke point jungle is gonna be, because you kinda need that to begin with. The first couple of levels is kinda difficult, but no real changes to lifestealer really. We'll see. Lina jungling, that's fun. I mean, Lina is one of the junglers that you would never see in the jungle, but it's somehow not terrible. And Lina can do a lot with for example, if she get a bottle and she abuses that the shrine. So if she does that and maybe picks up a bounty rune along the way, and you can actually jungle fairly quickly with like an IT, and if you can use your nukes to I mean, it's not terrible. Lina jungling is actually not terrible, and it's one of those fun little junglers that is not gonna be really fast, but the thing is she's flexible enough that you can also go gank. So if you can just get a few levels on the hero, which you can definitely do, you can definitely get a few levels on the hero by spending all your mana, go to the shrine and killing a few more camps. Just she can get to level 3 pretty quickly, and then she can set up some ganks with the other support, and it's not terrible. I mean, Lina is not a good jungler, but she works, and maybe she's gonna be better now. So Lone Druid is maybe the jungle hero that got the most from this patch. He got a lot of love. Like I already talked about some of it a little bit. The Radiance buff is really good. You can, because the bear doesn't count as an illusion, so the Radiance buff is only good on Lone Druid. And also the root mechanic got buffed. What do they call it? They call it just the root mechanic, you know, that mechanic that your bear does, entangle mechanic. I think it is called the root mechanic. But that also got buffed, so you can more reliably hold a lot of heroes in place if you manage to land an entangle on them. So that's really good. And also the shrine, I think, is a big deal for Lone Druid jungle, because you can use the shrine in the early phases of your jungling to just heal up yourself and your bear completely. So if you're getting in trouble and if you have some trouble doing stuff, you can even just abuse the shrine. You can even kill if you get one of the weak ancient camps, you can maybe even kill the ancient camps on level 5, and then after that you've taken a lot of damage, then you can use the shrine to heal up again. So the shrine is really good, the radiance is really good, the root mechanic is really good, and he also got a little bit of love here. So returning from true form to druid form reduced from 1.9 to 0.8. And if you're transforming to bear form, it still takes 1.9 seconds. So a little bit of a buff here. It's worth noting that I heard some people talk about that it might be an idea to just play the Lone Druid, maybe not even without the bear. You're gonna need the bear, but maybe play him with the bear as a frontline tank, and you not being a bear but just being in ranged form behind it. So that's something you could consider, and I don't think it's bad, because if I remember correctly, you can actually get a pretty awesome buffs on yourself. So let's see the skill tree. On level 5 you can choose 250 health or 200 attack range, and this was the buff I was talking about. If you want the attack range, I think it might be worth to do it, like I said, to have yourself on just being the Lone Druid as a human form, and just have the bear tank, so you can do some damage from pretty far away. Even if you couple with that, you also take a lance, what's it called, dragon lance, to get even more range. I think he can actually turn out to be a pretty good carry, like from a distance. So that's an option you do have. You can get 35 damage on yourself, or you can get 30 damage on your bear. Again, I think the 55 damage. If you wanna do the 55 damage on yourself, I think it's something you benefit even more from if you are in ranged form. So it's kind of interesting. And also I like the fact that the bear can just get more armor on level 7. I think that's really useful. Of course, the respawn time, I think, is one of the biggest respawn time we have, but this is interesting because it doesn't really respawn your bear. And if you're one of those Lone Druid players that really prioritizes the bear, then of course you would get the 7 armor on the spirit bear, because then the respawn time is not really going to help you, because if they kill the bear, then your hero is useless to defend and stuff like that. So it feels like there are two different directions to go, and you prioritize your bear completely, then this is what you want. And if you are still building yourself so even your hero can do a fair amount of right click damage, then the respawn time is also really good. So you have some options. Yeah, and on 25, just to finish it, 1.5 seconds entangled duration, or 10 seconds savage roar cooldown, minus 10 seconds savage roar cooldown. So yeah, I think I really would prioritize the entangle, but of course the savage roar is also a really good buff. So it's a matter of preference, I guess. But it's the hero overall, he got a lot from this expansion. And again, he's one of the heroes who you don't care, there's no stacks. And you even don't care that you might run out of creeps in the jungle, because you can still just kill a couple of the ancient creeps. So, and you're actually also often fast enough that you can actually rotate to the secondary jungle. So, Lone Druid, good jungler, got a lot of stuff. But I will say the thing about Lone Druid is the same thing I said about Broodmother. He is a fast jungler. It's fair, you can jungle fast, but it's not really the point of the hero. The point of the hero is to get that radiance really quickly, either by going safe lane or by doing this off lane Lone Druid, where you can really disrupt the other lane, and then by extension then the other lanes are gonna do better because they really have to deal with this Lone Druid, and then afterwards in the mid game you can get some space to get your radiance up and going. So he got a lot of lane presence, and it feels like a little bit of a waste to jungle him from level 1. But I mean, if you want to do that, you can definitely do it, and he got some love in this patch, so it feels like it's better now. Lycan jungle is I mean, I'm not a big fan of it, but I can see the attraction. It's not terrible. But again, Lycan is a little bit like Lone Druid and stuff like that. It feels like it's better just to have him on the lane. So, and also worth noting here is the Feral Impulse no longer provides attack speed, which I think you really need the attack speed when you're jungling, especially. I mean, it's on the lane, the attack speed is not that much of a difference, because normally you would get your gold from just last hitting. But in your jungle, you need the attack speed because you need to keep punching the creeps and do that really quickly. So, and the thing about the Feral Impulse, yeah, alright, it gives you some HP regeneration now, but it's not really enough to matter. I mean, one HP regen on level 1 is not worth it. You'd much rather have the 15 attack speed. On level 3, where you can get 4 HP regeneration, it's better, but I mean, at that point you're already past the most difficult stage of your Lycan jungle, so I'm not really feeling it. I wouldn't jungle Lycan in this patch. Magnus is sort of a jungler if you really want to, but there were a little bit of change to the Empower with how the cleave works, but like I said, I don't think it matters. If you want to jungle Magnus, you can still jungle him, and he jungles so slowly that you still don't care about the creeps not respawning at the 2-minute mark, so there's that. Medusa jungling is actually legit, and the Medusa is also one of the interesting heroes like Drow Ranger who can transition into doing ancients. So if you can just kill some camps and then you can keep stacking up the ancient camp in your own jungle, so you can work on that on level 5 when you have 3 stacks on the ancients, it might actually be good. So Medusa, yeah, let's see. Meepo got some love. I hate the rat, but it's fine. He can actually also jungle quickly. And but Meepo is one of the junglers that really want stacks, so he is hurt in that respect. And I still think it's better to just have Meepo on the mid lane or something, and then afterwards you can kill off the stacks that your support has been stacking for you. I'm not a fan of doing Meepo jungle on level 1, because he kind of needs a good start, and he needs to be ahead, because otherwise the hero is useless. You need to be 3 or 4 levels ahead of your opponent with this hero, so yeah. Mirana added a charge indicator for Mirana's ultimate Scepter Starstorm. That's good. It was a little bit annoying, but I mean, it's not a big deal. So Mirana feels like you can go in 2 different directions. You can do full spell damage, or you could go right click, and that's basically what you could do before. But what I mean is, like, the talent tree is kind of supporting this now. Like, you can get 8 agility if you want to go right click, and get some HP if you want to go in there, do your Starstorm. Spell amplification, obviously, if you want to do your full magic damage. Attack speed if you want to go right click, and you know, it's a trend. It's like there are 2 different ways to play Mirana. So the interesting thing here is that normally before, when you went complete late game with Mirana, and sometimes your Dagon, Ethereal Blade, Scepter, it kind of fell off, and then you wanted to sell off all those items to transition into more right click. That's gonna be harder now, because if you already picked all these abilities that supported your spell damage, and you don't have the 30 attack speed, you don't have the 40 damage, you don't have the agility, then it's gonna be a bit harder to actually transition into a carry. So it's interesting. You have to think about which direction I want to go in, and you have to think about that kind of already when you hit level 10. But you know, often you just win the game or lose the game by the time you got full gear with your spell damage. So it's not that often it's really relevant, but it's just a little interesting thing to note here. And the last thing I want to say about Mirana, 2 multiplot, 2+2 arrows. When you shoot your arrow and you choose this one, you shoot 3 arrows. It doesn't matter, but it's fun and it looks cool. So I like that. Props to Valve for making that change. About Mirana jungling, I think it's gonna be the same as before. She can kill some hard camps. I'm not really sure if I think actually, when I think about it, again, I think about the Radiant side here. I think the hard camps are a little bit closer together now, and that's actually a huge buff for Mirana jungling, because what she wants to do is just ignore everything else. She doesn't care about the medium camp. She just rotates between the hard camps, and she get a couple of levels that way, and then she starts roaming. And I think actually that might be better now. And again, Mirana bottle is great, and you're roaming and you can get all the bounty runes and even the real runes. So I think Mirana jungling is actually, when I think about it, I think Mirana jungling is actually better now. So yeah. Morphling, well, I have seen some people jungle Morphling is not great. It's like he is really too easy to gank. And I know that can be said about a lot of junglers, but if you are jungling Morphling, you usually go full agility and you have so little HP that it's ridiculous. But a few things I want to say about Morphling jungling. You can salve up while you're killing the creeps. You can just go full agility and have a bunch of tangos and healing cells on you, and you can heal up while you're killing the creeps. So that might be something you can abuse. And the other thing is the new Quilling Blade might be better on the early levels for a hero like Morphling, but it's still, nah, I don't think it's not very good. Nature's Prophet got changed in a little bit of balancing. I don't think this matters too much, but about his jungling capabilities, it's about the same. I don't think it matters that much. I don't think he's not really the born jungler. It's just too slow. And the thing about the Nature's Prophet, if you want to gank, you want a level in your Sprout, and you want possibly more levels in your TP, and then you don't really have the... that's great for offlane, because that's how you can do it, but you don't really want to have 2 or 3 levels in your treants, and that's kind of what you need if you are going to jungle. So I don't like Nature's Prophet in the jungle. I wouldn't jungle Nature's Prophet. I would put him on the lane somewhere, so he's better at ganking in the early game. Necrophos. However, I'm sure this is completely obvious, but from what most people would think, they would think, Nature's Prophet, fine, I can jungle. Necrophos, terrible jungler. I think it's the other way around. I like Necrophos a lot in the jungle, and I might be the only person in the world, but I really think Necrophos got some potential in the jungle. So he got buffed in this patch, and this is worth noting, so let me go through that first. Reaper's Side Scepter upgrade, no longer disable buyback or deals extra damage. Reaper Side Scepter upgrade reduced. Cooldown from 55, 40, 25. Okay, so about the Scepter, I would say that's kind of a nerf, because the fact that you can disable buyback is really good, and it's usually as a way you could win late game. If you just manage to hit your ulti on the right hero and they can't buyback, that's how Necrophos is really good in the late game, and you can't do that anymore. So it's kind of sad. It's they're trying to make up for it, for the fact that his ulti got a lot less cooldown, and this is a big deal with the cooldown, but it's still kind of sad. It's still kind of overall a nerf, I think. But here is where he got buffed a lot. So Death Pulse now also provides 1, 3, 5, 7 HP mana point regen for 7 seconds for each unit you kill. So this is of course reminiscence to the old Sadist aura. So what they've done basically is they've taken Death Pulse and Sadist and making them into the same spell, make it into Death Pulse. So the damage of Death Pulse and the heal got reduced a little bit. So let me see here. Death Pulse damage reduced from 125, 175, 225, 275 to 80, 120, 160, 200. And the Death Pulse heal reduced from 70, 90, 110, 130 to 60, 80, 100, and 120. So the overall skill Death Pulse is worse, but the thing that is really good is that it's now combined with the Sadist Aura. And the Sadist Aura is not even nerfed that much if you want to take those two together. The old Sadist Aura, let me check. The old Sadist Aura is a duration of 6, and then it has, and then it gave you 2, 4, 6, 12 mana, and it gave you 1, 2, 3, 6 HP. And the new Sadist Aura, if you want to call it that, which is implemented in the Death Pulse, is 1, 3, 5, 7, both mana and HP. But this is for 7 seconds, so it's not that much worse than it was before. But the thing that's really good when it comes to Necrophos jungling is that before you we're kind of struggling to actually have enough levels for everything. Obviously, you want your aura, your Heartstopper aura, to do the heavy load for when you're jungling. You want to take your aura on level 1, and then you punch some creeps and get some stacks going. But then you also needed some Death Pulse, and then you also needed some Sadist. You needed all your 3 spells, and that's not good for when you're jungling, because then you can't really do one thing well. But now you can just max your Death Pulse as soon as possible, and do maybe 1 or 2 levels in your Heartstopper aura, and it feels like it's a much better it's a much better condition to jungle with Necrophos now, because you have only 2 spells you need rather than before you had 3 spells you need. So I think Necrophos jungling is still gonna be good. I mean, this was the plus side. He got buffed, like his jungle capabilities got buffed, I'm pretty sure. Here is the downside. You really need the stacks when you're jungling Necrophos. And it's a huge deal that you don't spawn any creeps at the 2-minute mark. At the 4-minute mark, you don't really care, because at that point you're strong enough. But that stack that does not happen at the 2-minute mark, that's a big deal. So so I am not sure if I can jungle him as fast as I could before. But I think already now I can confidently say that on Radiant he's still gonna be a good jungler. He's a high skill cap jungler. I mean, you need to do a lot of things right. You need to know exactly how you double stack, and you need to do all this stuff. But I think he still might be good. And like I was alluding to before, on the Radiant side, you have 3 camps that are pretty close together. So I think it's impossible to stack all 3 at the same time with Necrophos. But maybe you can at least, when the 2 camps are done with, you can at least work on the last camp without having to walk that much. Maybe you can even drag all the creeps at the same time to get your Heartstopper going on all 3 camps at the same time. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but the point is that I don't think Necrophos is terrible in the jungle after this patch. I think he's still gonna be alright, and I'm definitely gonna make some Necrophos jungle videos. He got a new ability, Ghost Shroud. I'm not gonna touch on this a whole lot. It searches your ethereal for 3.5, 4.5 seconds and grants you 600 AoE slow that reduces the enemy movement speed by 12, 20, 28, 36%. And while you're in this form, you take 20% more magic resistance, but you also heal more. So I was thinking maybe you want 1 level of this for when you are clearing a stack and you really can get some stuff going with your Sadist and with your Death Pulse, but it feels like it's not really worth it. I mean, maybe you want that 1 level, maybe it can help you out in jungle a little bit, just because you get a lot more mana and HP back from your Death Pulse when you are in ghost form. But it if I'm honest, it feels like you just put 3 levels in your Death Pulse and 2 levels in your Heartstopper aura and just jungle him that way. So about his tree, nothing really interesting here. I'm just gonna leave it. 400 HP is a lot. You can get on 25. And the 1 second death pulse duration is interesting, but I don't think it's necessarily that good. I think you would want the 400 health, but yeah. Oh yeah, the 40 damage on level 10 already might still be alright, but I think at the point you get to level 10, I mean, that's when you got your whole flash farming going on Necrophos. Like you use your death pulse twice on all the creep lanes and then they die. So I'm not sure that the 40 damage is gonna be that good for killing creeps, because I think you're just gonna be flash farming at this point. But 40 damage is still good. When you're killing heroes, you are getting some right clicks off on people. So yeah. But like I said, not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on here. I should really move on. So Night Stalker is one of the heroes that really doesn't care about the jungle change, because if you want to jungle Night Stalker, you can. It is actually viable, but you don't jungle him until level 6. You jungle him until level 3, and then it hits nighttime, and then you go gank. That's basically what you do, and you can still do that. Again, he's one of the heroes that relies on choke point jungling. So let's see how the new choke point jungling is gonna be. But you can still get bottles on this hero. You can roam and you can jungle, do a little bit of both, and it's still gonna be fine. So Night Stalker is pretty much unchanged. Ogre Magi is a little bit of the same. The thing about Ogre Magi is that he is really good at killing big stacks in the medium camp. So what I was actually doing before is I was stacking the medium camps a lot, and then I just punched and killed the hard camps. Just the one hard camp, right? And so you stacked up one of the medium camps, and then you rotated between the other two, and that's still something you can do. And I don't think it's terrible. I think he is a fair jungler. I mean, it's kind of a waste because his laning presence is so good. He's so tanky. But the trend about Ogre Magi these days is all you're gonna do is max out your Bloodlust, because that spell is amazing, and then you just run around the map and buff all your heroes with Bloodlust. This is a trend that Ogre Magi is really going in. And if that is the way you want to skill him anyway, then you might actually go jungle, because you can Bloodlust yourself and get a lot of... I mean, this is pretty fast. This is like level 6 at around the 5-minute mark, maybe even just below the 5-minute mark. Was what you could do before, but I'm not sure you can do it that fast now because of the new jungle, and because of the fact that the creeps doesn't spawn at all as often. But I'm just saying that he's not terrible at jungling, and I think he's gonna remain to be not terrible, but he's not really good either. So we'll see. It is interesting. Again, it feels like you can go right click Ogre if you really want to. You can get some damage, you can get some health, you can get some stuff, but you really want to do the cast range, I feel, and you also really want to do the magic resistance. I mean, 40 damage is good, but I think in a real game it's just more important to stay alive and throw down your spells. You don't really right click that much when it gets down to it. I will say it is really interesting that you can get 40 Bloodlust attack speed. I mean, this spell is kind of why Ogre Magi is continuing to be picked. And it is interesting that you can get that when you hit level 25, that can be even better. So, yep. Omni Knight jungling is terrible. I'm not going to go too much into it, but I will say that the fact that you can... that the spell now is actually a BKB is huge. So the fact that Omni Knight got such a big buff and he still is a crabby laner, so you don't really know where you can put him, speaks a little bit to the option of maybe you can get him a few levels in the jungle, and then you can use the shrine to make him heal up and get all his mana back, and then you can get back and jungle a little more, and then maybe you can hit your level 3 or 5 fairly quickly, and then you can help your lanes. That might actually be an option, but he's not a great jungler. But just because the hero is so good and he's a crabby laner, maybe that's a reason why you might put him in the jungle sometimes. Phantom Assassin can jungle a little bit, but no, don't do it. Puck is actually a hero I had some ideas with to jungle, like where you did the same thing like you did with Mirana. You could stay on top of the hill and then you could attack the Ancients. You might actually still be able to do that on the dire side. On the new Ancient camp, maybe there's a way you can abuse this, so you can farm possibly farm a camp, and then afterwards you can use your orb to go to the high ground, and then you can attack the ancients. I mean, it remains to be seen, but it's an option. Maybe it's not terrible. Maybe it's not terrible. And I will say that Puck got this huge illusionary orb of doom, so it's fun. It's fun, and the 300 gold per minute is also fun. So it could be fun to have Puck in the jungle to level pretty fast, get something like a fast blink dagger or a Midas and a blink dagger and then a Midas, something like that. I think Midas is something that's gonna be pretty interesting on Puck, so you can get up to that 25 really quickly. So the hero got buffed, definitely. All of these are amazing, but if you should jungle Puck is maybe not the ideal thing to do. But I'm just saying that there might be some places where you can stand at the high ground, or maybe even on the rune spot. On some of the not the rune spot, excuse me, the ward spot, like in some of the hills, you can maybe stand there and continue to right click some, for example, the ancients or something. So there are some options for Puck jungling that I'm gonna look into. Pudge is good for roaming, not for jungling. Pugna, that is interesting, because Pugna, like I was saying before, you could just get a trillion clarity potions, and then you can just continue to just right click and kill creeps with your nether blast. Maybe that's not gonna be terrible. So again, I don't think it's gonna be a great jungler, but the fact that you have the option to just heal up completely by using the shrine, plus you have the option to just clarity all the time, means that you can throw out some more spells with Pugna. And that might actually be worth considering. The same with Queen of Pain. Is like Puck, there's some fringe options to use Queen of Pain in the jungle, where you just put it on the high ground, and at the same time you need to stack up some camps so you can kill them later with maybe even more clarities, and then some Scream of Pain. Yeah, I mean, it might be alright. The bad thing about jungling Queen of Pain is she's a good laner, so why the hell would you jungle her? The good thing is, it's like anti-mage. It's like, alright, you know there's a Queen of Pain jungling, you kinda don't care, because even if you try to gank her, how are we actually gonna kill her? She can blink. So there is that. It seems like here, by the way, that Queen of Pain is gonna go into some more heavy right click later on. Like with the 100 attack range and with the 35 intelligence, it's good for right click, and you can get more damage. And I mean, it's an option. I like the 70% lifesteal. It's really good with your ulti. You can heal up that way, but it feels like that the right click way of doing it, where you go into BKB, Skadi, Cuirass, stuff like that, could be really good. So it's gonna be fun to try. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna jungle Queen of Pain. I mean, I'm gonna try it. Let's see how good it is, but I doubt it. Rubik, there was some fringe jungling where you could take the creeps and pull it into the lane, and I think Valve have learned from their previous mistakes, and I don't think that's possible anymore. But it is a new patch, and maybe some weird, stupid jungling Rubik shit can still happen. So let's see. Sand King is a jungler that I'm definitely gonna make a guide on. I've been promising you guys that for some time, and I knew the patch was coming up, and I should have done it long ago, but then I knew the patch was coming up, and there was no point in making jungle guides the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a guide on Sand King, and I still think he might be alright as a jungler. The thing is that you really like stacks with Sand King, and so question is, how good can he be? But when that is said, I mean, the Caustic Finale, if you just level up that and jungle with that, it's not terrible, but I still don't think he's like great as a jungler, but I think he can work. But I mean, yeah, it remains to be seen. Shadow Demon, The hardcore jungling Shadow Demon is not great, but the Shadow Demon, the way he can thrive right now in the jungle is that he is one of the few heroes that can actually legitimately stack a crap load of camps at the same time. So at the 1 minute mark, he can stack 4 camps at the same time, maybe even 5 camps at the same time using Shadow Poison. Maybe he can even stack the Ancients on top of all of this. So a support Shadow Demon that's hanging around in the jungle, stacking up camps, that is something we could see. But, you know, the big thing about Shadow Demon is illusions in general got nerfed, which means that he got nerfed heavily. So, yeah. But then again, we have 400 purge damage, or we have... I don't think the Shadow Poison, you're not gonna get allowed to stack up that much Shadow Poison in the late game at 25, but 400 damage, demonic purge damage. And if you have a scepter, you have a lot of these demonic purges, and they might be alright. I mean, it's cool, but the main thing about Shadow Demon here is it's really valuable for heroes that can stack a crap lot of camps at the same time, because that's the way you can still make stacks for your carries now. So Shadow Demon is great for that, but he's also trash now because Illusions got nerfed. So sniper jungling, like I was saying, it's not horrible, but it's not really good. So might be worth to try and see if the new Quilling Blade is gonna make it a little bit better for him, but this I don't think so. It's not great. Spectre jungling is also something you can do, but again, it's not great. I mean, if you really want to jungle, you should pick some of the heroes that are really great at jungling, that can get fast levels. Otherwise, it feels like it's a waste to do it. So the same thing with Storm Spirit. I actually did a lot of Storm Spirit at some point, Storm Spirit jungle that is, and it was alright, but you really need to hit your level 6 before the 5 minute mark, or maybe at the 5 minute mark, 5:13 or something at the latest. If you can't do that, then there's no point. So Storm Spirit again is one of those heroes that really benefit from a bottle, and he also really benefits from the fact that you can heal up with the shrine. So maybe there's a little bit of options there. Sven jungling is something that worked before, and it was actually alright, but I think it's still a better way to do it, to just put him on the safe lane and then have somebody else stack up the camps. The main thing about Sven now is that Dominator is no longer an item. It doesn't give you lifesteal anymore, so it's not really great for Sven. So how the hell are you actually gonna get lifesteal on Sven now? I mean, you could there's a few different ways you can do it. You can obviously, what you want with Sven is big stacks, big ancient stacks, and big stacks in the jungle. And Dominator was great for that because it gave you lifesteal and armor and damage. But when you can no longer do that, then you have a few options. Either you need your teammates to help you to clear the stacks, which is not great, or you can maybe just get the Mask of Death, which is gonna later on go into either a Satanic or a Mask of Madness. But it feels like he got really hurt by the fact that Dominator is no longer an item that's good for Sven that gives lifesteal. So let's see. Level 1 jungling Sven is not something I'm a fan of. I mean, I tried it and it's actually not terrible, but I just think it's better to just put him on the safe lane. Techies jungling, I tried that with the new mines. I was like, oh, the mines does more damage. Maybe you can actually abuse the crap out of that and just kill up a couple of camps in the very first minute and just get a couple of levels that way. As it turns out, the awesome damage of proximity mines is not really awesome at level 1. On level 1 it was 150 before, and now it's 225. And later on, yeah, it will do a crap ton of damage with 750, but level 1 Techies jungling is actually, I think, worse now. Before you could actually do it. You could stack up a couple of mines and then you could drag the creeps in, and it could actually work, but then now it's gonna be difficult. I mean, it's definitely not gonna be as good as it was before. So, and I'm happy about this because I hate Techies and I think he belongs in Super Mario and not Dota, so I never want to see him in my life again. So Templar Assassin jungling is maybe okay. It's interesting that the ancient area is in your own jungle, so you can stack up the ancients while you're killing the other camps, and this way you can maybe transition into the ancients later on in the mid game. But it's not great. I wouldn't do Templar Assassin jungling. It's just meh. The same thing about Terrorblade. He can actually jungle, and it's actually not terrible. terrible, no pun intended. But he's just better on the lane. But I will say that Terrorblade is actually a deceptively good jungler. Tinker jungling is something I've been advocating for a long time. The thing about Tinker jungling is it's got a huge skill cap, and I had to practice a long time to get the really good results I was able to get consistently. Is also really reliant on the stacks. So is he actually gonna be able to jungle now? I don't know. I think the March, again on the Radiant side, there are 3 camps near the base that are kind of close together. Maybe your March can hit all 3 and you can still do some triple stacking there, and then you have some camps to work with. But it's, I think the golden era of Tinker jungling, which never actually happened, it was only me that liked to do that, where you can get the really fast travels on 6 or 8 minutes or something. I think that's over. But maybe there's some way you can still justify Tinker jungling, at least to the point that it can be fun in pub games. I mean, I'm gonna try it, but the really fast travel timings, I think, is done for. I think, yeah, that's just how it is. Troll Warlord can jungle, but you know, it's not great. But maybe there's some places on the high ground he can be now, so he can do it fairly fast. I think Troll Warlord actually is one of the heroes that can really benefit from the fact that your healing self works while you're taking damage. So he can kill these camps. Maybe he can actually level quite quickly by having freaking 3 or 4 healing selves on his person, so he can just continue to just hit the creeps, get his fervor stacking, and even though he's taking a lot of damage, he can just heal up while he's doing it. So with a lot of healing selves, I think he can jungle really quickly. I think actually could be legit, but you really want lifesteal on this guy. He benefits so heavily from lifesteal. And again, it's just hard to get lifesteal now because the freaking Morbid Mask costs 1200 instead of 900. And that is a huge deal when you want to build up your jungling by getting lifesteal. So we'll see, but I think there are some opportunities about troll jungling. Underlord jungling, I tried it. It was actually quite terrible. So I don't think that's gonna work. But Ursa, on the other hand, I think maybe Ursa is gonna be great, especially on the dire side. So here's the thing, Ursa is also one of the heroes you can benefit heavily from actually putting the healing self on yourself while you're killing a camp. When you're killing one of the hard camps, then you can heal yourself while you're doing it. It's really good. You don't have to waste time just healing up. And also when you want to go for Roshan, then conveniently your shrine is almost right next to Roshan when you're doing it on the dire side, so you can just maybe get that stuff you need to kill the Roshan, and then you can do the shrine, and then you can get in there and do it fairly quickly with the smoke. So maybe you can still do it around level 6, but the thing is that again, you need lifesteal to kill Roshan, at least if you want to do it alone, and the lifesteal is now 1200 instead of 900. So you're gonna need some other form of build up. That Ursa jungling that I've seen some people do, where you just rush the Mask of Death, like really rush it before you get anything else, that's not gonna work. You need something else if you're gonna jungle Ursa. Some sort of small item, some build up. So we'll see. But I have a feeling that Ursa jungling might actually be good. Now, I mean, I think it's gonna be just about as good as it was before. It sucks that you can't get your lifesteal as fast, but the shrine and the fact that you can heal yourself while you're jungling is really good. So maybe there's still some opportunities here. Venomancer, I think, is maybe the last of the really good junglers that I am going to cover here. And I mean it in every sense of the word. It is a really good jungler. He is really fast, and he is very good with these wards. It's hard to gank Venomancer in the jungle because he got all these wards. So they're gonna take a lot of damage and a lot of poison damage if they actually try to gank you. And if you play it right and you just let the wards do the work, then you won't really tank, so you won't even be a low HP if they come for you. So Venomancer is one of the fastest jungler, at least before the patch, and I think he's gonna continue to be so. And the the thing that really gives me high hopes for Veno jungling is that you don't really care that the camps don't spawn at the 2-minute mark. I mean, first of all, you stack up a couple of camps on the 1-minute mark. So you have some camps to work with, and then all of these stacks, you are killing them slowly with your wards, and when you are done doing that, then you're actually in a position you can transition directly to the ancient area, or at least you can kill one other camp, and then you can stack the ancients, and then you can finish killing the camp, and then you can go to work on your what then would be a double ancient camp stack. And Venomancer is one of the heroes that can do that, because if you place your wards correctly, then I think it might actually be possible to continue to kill the ancients fairly quickly. Maybe you would need to wait until you're level 5, but I think maybe you can actually get away with doing it even sooner. So if you run out of camps in your jungle, then it's definitely an option. You can continue to farm up the ancients, so that's a buff, I think. So let's see. Veno jungling is still gonna be a thing, I'm pretty sure. Wraith King jungling is something you can do, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to do that still. It's still gonna be fine. I mean, you do it the same way you did it before, like with an Iron Talon, and I prefer to get the Stout Shield, and then you just get some trits and a lot of regen, and continue from there. And then usually you max your crit and just have all the lifesteal you need, maybe 1 level in your stun to just use your mana a little bit to do some damage. It's a matter of preference, but bottom line, Wraith King jungling is not awful, and is about your level 6 in around 5 minutes, maybe a little less than 5 minutes. So he's just in the area where you can maybe say, yeah, it's alright. And I think that's gonna be the same now. I mean, he jungles so slowly that he doesn't care that you're gonna be missing camps, pretty much. So yeah. Zeus. The only thing I want to say about Zeus and jungling is that the clarity spam Zeus jungling is something I'm gonna try, but I don't think it's gonna work. But it's interesting, because especially a hero like Zeus that can just keep claritying and keep spamming your spells in the jungle, I don't think it's gonna do enough, but it's interesting. I even tried to kill the ancient camp with Zeus, and that's terrible. It takes a million years, but it's I mean, after the ancients no longer is magic immune, they take damage from both the arc lightning and the passive. God, what's it called? Static field, I think. Anyway, Zeus's passive and Zeus's arc lightning works on the ancients now. So I was wondering if you could stack up the ancients completely and then kill it later on. I wouldn't do that. It's not good enough, and even with all the clarity and bottling in the world, it's still terrible. And the same thing about Tinker, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. I also tried Tinker to clear the stacks, to clear the ancient stacks with Tinker, and that was also quite terrible. So yep. So let's just look at the new map here in the end. I think I covered everything I wanted to cover in the actual patch analysis. So
prepare for battle.
I'm just watching a replay of myself checking some stuff out with Daxia. Like I said, unfortunately, the ancient area, you cannot use your vacuum to stack them onto this hill. This is what I was talking about. It would be really funny if you could do it, and it would be like the next unlimited stacking video. But unfortunately, the ancients do not care about vacuum, so Valve did their homework on that one. So that's very unfortunate. That would have been a lot of fun. What you can do, and I think I'm gonna do that later in this replay, is take this camp and stack it onto the hill here. That's I mean, it's not great, but you know, if that's fun and you can then technically you can still do the unlimited stacking, but it's not very efficient. That's the way I see it. But and also this camp you can stack it onto that hill, and there's a bit other stuff like that you can do around the map. But here is where Daxia could be really good jungler. He got this ability search. So even though the creeps doesn't spawn at the 2-minute mark, he can stack a lot of camps at the same time at the 1-minute mark. And he can do this technique I call delayed stacking, where he puts his... I'm gonna have to make a video about this, but you can stack a lot of camps at the same time with Darkseer. By abusing the fact that when the creeps run back to their camp, they will chase you again because they still have the Iron Shield on. So you can stack a lot of camps at the same time. So I think Darkseer jungling is actually good because Darkseer is also a hero that can really benefit from the fact that you can do what you call it, healing cells and clarities on yourself. So he's definitely, look at me, I'm trying like an idiot. I'm like, come on, work. It doesn't work. But the Darkseer with clarities and healing cells, he can rotate through the jungle really quickly, and that is something that could be really good because yeah, there are no creeps spawning at the 2-minute mark, but if you successfully stack a lot at the 1-minute mark, then you might actually be good to go and you can get really quickly level 6 if you do it. So I think it's definitely worth considering. I mean, sometimes you even wanna jungle Darkseer on the first few levels and then go to the offlane. So if that's your plan, then you can still do it. It's still very good. I mean, you don't care about the creeps not spawning at the 2-minute mark if your plan is to rotate to the offlane anyway.
Is under attack.
And if you do that, you even have an extra camp down here that you can kill before you get to the offlane. So definitely some option for the Darkseer jungling, but that's actually not what I wanted to talk about right now. But I wanted to show you guys the new map. So as you can see, we have Roshan here at the top room, and like I was saying, I think it could be really interesting to just have Ursa kill these camps a couple of times, and then he can rotate down to kill Roshan. Look at me, already stacked it a little bit. I'm an idiot. It's fine. So Ursa might have a pretty good chance of jungling on the dire side if you want to. You can also jungle on Radiant, and then when you can see, alright, I'm pretty close to having my life steal, then you can rotate over to this area where you have some more camps you can work with, and then you can sneak into Roshan really quickly. Notably, you also have a way you can heal here if your offlane haven't taken it already. So Ursa is interesting with the new Roshan position. There's some option for Ursa. So, but this is what I want to show you. On the dire side, you have these camps here. This medium camp, I believe it is. It's hard to say when it's the centaurs, but I think this is a medium camp, and it's on the low ground. So that means that the normal choke point jungling that a lot of junglers really like to do, that's gonna be really hard to do right here, because you obviously you can't choke point, at least not from this side. You can come in from this side and then choke point when it's on the low ground, because obviously you can't go through the hill. So choke point jungling is gonna be more difficult now, and I'm interested to see how it can actually be done. So let's see. At least it feels like to me that the dire side is a lot worse when it comes to jungling. I'm sure there's a few jungler that would still prefer the dire side, but the way I see it, the really big advantage you had before on the dire side is that it was really easy to choke point jungle in this area right here by the hard camp, what is now the hard camp. You don't have that option anymore, so it feels like that it's a lot worse to jungle on the dire side. And the reason is, well, first of all, that choke point jungle I just explained, but the other reason is that this looks really promising. These 3 camps here are really close together, and there is some form that you can abuse this, I'm sure. I'm thinking Keeper of the Light, I'm thinking Necrophos, I'm thinking Darkseer. There must be some heroes that can really abuse the fact that these 3 camps are so close together. Possibly even
Radiant's
Tinker.
bottom tower
so it feels
is under
like,
attack.
And also, just look at this. You can choke point jungle on this camp, and you can choke point jungle on this camp, and you can. Okay, so the medium camp is on the low ground, but that doesn't matter. If you can stack this up a lot,
Radiant's bottom
it's
tower
the
is
hard
under
camp.
attack.
If you can choke point the hard camp, it's a lot more valuable. So
Dire's middle tower
overall,
is under attack.
it feels like that the Radiant got a lot better jungling. So the other thing that's interesting is that the Ancients area here is always right next to the shrine. That's the same about both shrines here. Both of the Ancient camps are right next to the shrine. So that means, for example, Axe. If you can get maybe 3 stacks of the Ancients, maybe that's going to be part of your jungling pattern. If you do that, then you can use the shrine here after you've killed like half the camp. You can use the shrine here to heal up, and then you can maybe have enough to kill the rest of the camp. If you combine the shrine with the fact that you can heal while you're killing the Ancients, I don't think it's very unrealistic that Axe can kill the Ancients fairly quickly. So this is a big option to watch out for, and it's interesting that they chose to put the shrine right next to the Ancients. So, and this shrine, like I was talking about, this is one of the buffs to the jungle that I don't think people really appreciate. The thing, when you're jungling here, for example, in these 3 camps, and you're getting ganked, then before it was really difficult for your team to actually help you. They would have to TP into the mid tower, and then like run to get to you, or they have to TP in here and then run, and maybe they could just kill you and get out. But now they can, there's a shrine in a more central place in the jungle, so, and you can TP to this shrine. So if they're ganking you down here, then they can TP to the shrine and they can go in and help you. And I think that's really valuable. And also it's also if you're like getting caught, well, when you're here for some reason, maybe you're going for the rune and then you're getting caught, then the shrine is really close to you and you can escape to the shrine. It's gonna be a lot harder to actually kill you when you're jungling, and I think that's a huge buff to jungling that people don't appreciate. This shrine right here is a huge buff. And the other buff to jungling is the bounty rune. Like I've been saying like a million times already, there's a bounty rune in each
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
There, and where is it? Here, all the way over here, and there. And all these bounty runes,
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Just made so that junglers can freaking eat them with bottles, and that's, for some junglers, that can be really good. So here is also one of the places where you can if you want to. It's fun. It's not great, but it's fun. I think before when I did it, I think there was some fringe way where you could actually abuse it in a way so it was actually good to do in your jungle pattern, was actually improving by the fact that you could stack the creeps onto the hill. But I think it's a lot harder to do that now. But maybe there's still a way that you can implement this in your Darkseer jungling to just make it a little bit faster. Because, you know, when the creeps are not spawning in the 2-minute mark and the 4-minute mark, then it might be quite valuable to have an extra option to
Radiant's
that.
bottom tower is under attack.
The biggest troll thing I've ever made, but it's also something that might just be something you could consider. I mean, it's just something you can keep in mind, and I'm gonna keep it in mind when I make a Darkseer jungling guide.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
In some shape or form, Darkseer can be a really fast jungler.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
I'm just gonna have to find the fastest way to do it here in the new patch.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
I think that's pretty much it.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
It really feels like the Radiant got the better of this trade. Radiant got a much better jungle. You can choke point jungle and you can do the high ground jungle here. I mean, for example, with Necro or with Drow Ranger, I like to be on this area with the 2 camps closest to home, and then I could kill all the creeps from the high ground. And you can still do that. It's a little harder to get them around this corner, the wolves, but you can still do that. And you can do the choke point jungling. All of this is on Radiant. What the hell did Dire get? Dire got jack shit almost. Okay, they can actually do high ground jungle on this hard camp. Maybe that can actually be good. Maybe there's still some options here. And they can also do high ground jungling on this camp over here. So, but you don't really want to run all the way back and forth if you want to do that. It will probably have to be this camp. It will probably have to be this hard camp.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
So if you can kill this hard camp over and over with some heroes, and then you can stack up this camp over here, which is now the medium camp, then it might actually still
Radiant's
be alright. Maybe
bottom
there's still
tower
some
is
stuff
under
you can
attack.
do here on Dire. But it feels like that the Radiant got the better of this trade-off. So, not to mention that, well, the Roshan, it got moved sort of in the middle, but there's still closer to the Radiant main, the Dire main jungle, not to mention that the main jungle is a lot more efficient now, because the main jungle also has its own ancient stack. So the Roshan advantage is still on the ancient side, I feel. Or Dire side, holy shit, what am I talking about? The Dire side got the Roshan advantage. The Dire side had the Roshan advantage before the patch, and the Dire side will still have the Roshan advantage. That's where I'm getting at. Jesus Christ. And is there anything I'm forgetting? Could you do some weird sort of jungling in this area? Is what I'm wondering right now. Before you can do some stuff with Miranda or Puck, there was a hill here you could stand on. And you could kill the hard camp here with some arrows while you were killing the ancients. It was not great, but it was something you could do. But now they removed the hill, so you can't really do that anymore. But then again, you have two camps to work with here, a hard camp and a medium camp. If you can somehow make that work and at the same time stack the ancients sometimes, maybe it's still something that is worth considering. In this ancient area here, there's nothing to come. There's nothing you could do. I mean, you can high ground a medium camp, but that's not really what you want to do.
Radiant's middle tower is under
against the hard camp or the ancients. So this area here is completely dead when it comes to jungling. This is only a place you want to be if you want to rotate with your Jen or Enigma or your Enchantress. Then you can stop here, like for a pit stop, and just take some of the creeps and then continue to gank. But in terms of hardcore jungling, there's
Radiant's
nothing to
middle tower is under attack.
In this area, that's for sure. In this area, there's a little more. I mean, you can still do high ground jungling on the.
Dire victory.
I guess the game.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
We can do this, can we? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I said what I wanted to say. So overall, I think there are some heroes that it looks really promising for, and I think the Radiant got the better jungle, but then again it gets even out by the fact that Dire got the better Roshan advantage still. So I think that there definitely still gonna be room for junglers. I don't think junglers are at all so ill placed that a lot of people think. A lot of people think, all right, in this patch, junglers are dead. It's never gonna happen anymore. But I think people need to realize that there's a lot of advantages of jungling now, like with the bounty runes and the shrine. And the biggest buff to junglers is that you can put a freaking healing salve on yourself and clarity on yourself while you're jungling. It's a huge advantage. And also your level 6 gets going a little bit faster, and yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I think there's still a lot of potential for junglers in the news patch, and I'm gonna be looking forward to make a lot of jungling guides for you guys. I'm gonna have a more time of my hands now, so I'm gonna do my best to make all the jungle guides as fast as possible, so I can give you guys what you want, and that is the jungle guides that I'm making. So that is something I'm gonna do now. It's gonna be. I'm gonna try to do this as fast as possible. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna be uploading videos more often than I did before. Before I had a lot of things holding me back, real life stuff. But this is I'm a bit more free now to work here on this channel. So I'm gonna be making a lot of jungling guides in the weeks to come, even the months to come. So look out for that, and I hope you've enjoyed my analysis, and let me know what you think. Please let me know in a constructive way if there's any mistakes I made, if there's anything you disagree on, and voice your opinion. What do you think? Is this good or bad for junglers, or am I right in assuming that it's not completely terrible to jungle now, or do you still think it's completely terrible to jungle now because of the respawn timer not being the creeps not spawning at the 2-minute mark or the 4-minute mark? So let me know what you think about all of this, and thanks for watching, and have fun in the new map. And I'm actually looking forward to playing this map for real. I was not happy when I saw it, but I'm a bit more happy now. It actually looks like a lot of fun, and there's definitely some junglers I look forward to playing. So yeah, I'm just talking now. So thanks for watching, and see you guys.